I bid you all a most flamboyant welcome, my esteemed comrades of the Slies. Welcome, welcome to yet another edition of the ACES competition. And boy, folks, have we got a show for you today as the Nunavut Lumberjacks and the Paris Peacocks take on each other in an effort to stave off elimination from the playoff race in the inaugural season of the ACES competition in a do or die Round 3 epic. Welcoming you all inside of the broadcast voice call. My name is Shadows, very happy to be back. And the sexy voice that is not mine on color commentary, provided by Poke Yaki. How are you feeling about today's match, man?
Well, hello there. I'm feeling very excited as the last time I was also commentating on the Paris Peacocks and they unfortunately lost even though they have the awesome Avatarinator and the very handsome Ogirino. But we shall see how they fare today.
Yes, no, this is going to be a very interesting matchup today. When you look at both of these teams, I feel like it's almost impossible to believe that both of these guys are 0-2. The Paris Peacocks in particular, watching a few of their matches, I feel like they've all played very, very good matches. Avatar in particular has been stuck with 3-6 twice and has done very well with that. Maybe like a couple of dropped super jumps in Gauntlet, but I'm no better at Gauntlet. And yet, despite that, Avatar, like I said, has been doing really well. Their third team member has been doing really well, whose name is unfortunately escaping me at the moment because I haven't talked to him much personally. And Augie even has been playing against some really tough competition in Bacon Man and Remo, and they're 0-2. Jackie?
Yeah, that basically sums up the Paris Peacocks road so far, and the name you were missing is Takai.
Oh my goodness, I'm so sorry. I don't know why that just brain farted. Takai, I have talked with a good amount, and he has also been a great addition to the Paris Peacocks. How could I possibly let that name escape me? He has played, 2-3 so far, as well as Paris? Was it in the first round they played?
If my memory serves, yes, that was Paris.
Yes, I believe it was Paris. And once again, he's played some really good matches to help close it out. So again, I think the Peacocks really do have some great guys on their hands. It's a great group. And then looking over on the other side with the Nunavut Lumberjacks, Jake and Slink, both very experienced runners. Sneak, perhaps a little bit of a newer one. I think the biggest problem for that team, once again, has kind of just been the unfortunate matchups. I think Jake has been a really experienced runner. He's been very fluent in a lot of the games from Sly 3, 2, and dabbling a little bit in 4. Slink has faced some tough competition, and unfortunately for him, sometimes when Sly 4 isn't getting picked, it would seem a little bit rougher for him. Not because he's bad at any of the other games, so to speak, but Sly 4, as many of you, I'm sure you are aware, is his bread and butter. Slink is, of course, a good friend of mine and a very, very talented runner in Sly 4, particularly Episode 1. He is a former world record holder. So, Yaki, I guess we can start talking about that now with these two teams as we get going with the draft here. If you are the Lumberjacks, we'll start with, what are you looking to ban? What's this level layout got to look like?
That is a very good question. I'd probably ban some Sly 2 episodes that, for example, Jake isn't comfortable with, or that they assume Oggy is comfortable with. And Sly 3, basically everything is open. I think both Avatar and Oggy can play Sly 3 quite any episode, so that doesn't matter that much. Just that they get a possible Sly 3 episode that they are comfortable with. And so we have banned 2-5, 2-8, 3-6, quite expected, and 4-5.
Yeah, really good bands, really interesting bands to start off with. I should also mention real quick something else. I believe Takei was running into some problems over on his end, so if he is not able to go right now, then I believe Mr. Avatar in Nator will sub in for the second episode. But Yaki, as you were getting at right off the bat, something I'm a little surprised to see for the Peacocks, I believe they started out by banning 3-6. Kind of surprising considering Avatar has been rocking that episode for both matches. And we also now get to see the first pick by the Lumberjacks. They are going to 2-2, which, if I'm not mistaken, I think that's the first time we're going to see that in this tournament.
You are correct. That is the first time we are seeing this awesome episode.
And then meanwhile, speaking of, we're going right back to the Dash 2s as the Peacocks now take a look at Australia, which I believe Jake on the other side for the Lumberjacks, he has run that episode at least once, if not twice. Very interesting picks we have so far. Of course, for Slink, as I was briefly talking about on the right side, we still have 3 more Sly 4 episodes left on the board, 2 of which actually has 4-4. 4-4 has been played before, but 4-3 has not been played. So going to be very interesting to see the next couple of bands here for the Lumberjacks, and for the Peacocks, a potential clean house on Sly 4, if they so choose.
Yeah, I'm just starting to think a little bit which episodes the Lumberjacks want to ban. We shall see. They're banning 2-4 and... Did I miss it? Yeah, 3-4. So we are not seeing the China episode today. The very infamous episode for me, especially.
3-4, of course, being a very difficult episode with multiple tricks like the cutscene skip in the treasure room of Operation Wedding Crasher, Palace skip, and a vast majority of other tricks. Kind of surprised to see a handful of Sly 3 still available. Rather, we still have 3 Sly 4 episodes left available. So we see Paris, a lot of Sly 2 is getting canceled out. We're only having 2. And 4-2, I would be shocked if that's not the pick right here for the Lumberjacks. I think Slink would feel right at home with that, but we'll see.
Yeah, I'd assume that also. I don't think there is any reason for them to pick 2 Sly 3 episodes.
Yeah, no, especially not when you have Avatar potentially running twice. Especially, like I said earlier, Avatar, all he has ran, and there we go, the Lumberjacks picking 4-2. Not to jump to conclusions here, but I can almost tell you without a shadow of a doubt that is where Slink is going to be headed. And so if I had to guess now, that's probably going to leave Jake to go back to Australia once again, and probably going to send Sneak over to India for Rajan's level in the Lumberjacks case.
That is probably the case.
I think so. I'm kind of a little bit sad to see both Venice and Holland still on the board. Those are both great episodes, and we've seen some great competitions with those in the past. Of course, with Nave and Slink fighting on that episode, with 3-3 and Augie and Bacon Man having a really competitive race in Venice. And now we also get the initial order. So kind of missed that there. What was it? I believe we are going to Australia first, and then we are heading to I keep forgetting the name of the episode. 2-2, and then we're going to 4-2. I just realized now as well we got all the dash twos, so the clean sweep there, funny enough. But yeah, so I guess better question now, Yaki. I think a lot of people could speculate about how the Lumberjacks are going to set this order up. How are you dividing this up if you are the Peacocks?
That is a good question. I'd probably put Avatar on the 3-2 and 4-2, and Oggerino on 2-2. Numbers are hard, yes. And that is only because Avatar has to switch games, so he doesn't have to switch games in the middle of the run. He can switch the game while Oggy is running. That is my assumption on how the episodes will go.
You do make a very good point. I know in some previous episodes we have seen a little bit of that. I don't think it ended up mattering a whole lot because the one team that had to switch, I think it was Beaver switching the game to go to 4-2 in case of... I can't even remember who's on what team anymore, forgive me, but that case didn't end up mattering. This case, though, Yaki, I do believe you make a very good point, and from the looks of it, I believe you are spot on. We're going to see Avatar in Australia for the Peacocks, and for the Lumberjacks, as we said before, Jake, he's already run this episode once in this tournament, if not twice, so he's going to go right back to Australia for the Lumberjacks. Of course, we see our runners starting to prepare here, just making sure their power-ups are all in check. We have had a few instances where, unfortunately, some people have forgotten to buy some power-ups, so making some last-minute preparations here with the time we have before we get started. So, Jockey, what are you most looking forward to now that we have these sort of configurations set up?
I don't know actually. This is gonna be a really tough race for both of the teams because there's a lot of English is hard. Most of those
English.
episodes are real technical, a lot of movement, a lot of little technical stuff. So I'd say the winner is the team who executes better.
As it typically happens to be. Yeah, and especially we will probably end up seeing that in the case of Slink and I would presume Avatar at the very end in Sly 4, where heck, let's just take a look at the episodes as we get on the way here and both teams making their way over to the first job of episode 2 in Sly 3. But I do believe that episode 2 in Sly 2, a starry-eyed encounter. I finally remembered the name of that. You think I'd remember that after playing these games for most of my childhood, but I digress. I think, like you said, Yaki, execution is obviously going to be a big part, especially in Sly 3 and Sly 2. But I think execution there is going to determine a lot because with the skill of these runners, if we get to Sly 4 and somebody has a big enough job lead, like let's say somebody has a lead of like a full job, it's going to be very, very hard to try and shrink that lead down because Sly 4, as some of you may or may not know, it's a very movement based game. There's not as many big swings like there are in this episode with things like the Lemon Rage cutscene skip or just some RNG in general with stuff like Hungry Croc. It's going to be very interesting to see how this episode gets off to a start, and it's going to determine a lot for how the later half of the race is going to go.
That is true, yes. And that way, I'm a little bit sad that we have Sly 4 episode as the last episode of this run. So, but as you said, if there's a big enough difference, that might not be that exciting. But if they are neck and neck, it's gonna be really exciting.
Yeah, I definitely relate to that. So funny enough, I think it was with the Lumberjacks in I believe their round 2 matchup, but the situation you were describing actually just came very much into fruition where it got down to the wire in quotation marks where all due respect to the runners of course, but Beaver and Slink were racing at the end in Sly 4 episode 2 Go West Young Raccoon, and when they got there, Beaver was like a full job length ahead. And again, all due respect to both Beaver and Slink. I love Slink. I've talked to him for years. Beaver is not blowing that lead without a monumental collapse. Like that's multiple minutes, and there's just no way. So Beaver wouldn't even have to pull out all the stops, and he had a remotely he had a pretty comfortable cushion going into there. And like I said, just without those big enough swings, in spite of Slink's skill, the Peacocks, or sorry, I keep forgetting what team Beaver is on. I'm so sorry. But they were able to pull that out and get their first win, I believe, as well. But yeah, we can see here Avatar on the left having a little bit of trouble with the razor blade. Of course, if you get hit by that, you kind of get bounced back. Not a huge detriment, though, especially not compared to some of the things we will see later on with jobs like Dark Caves. And as I said, Big Truck even is going to be another big one, which I guess let's start there as well, Yaki. So I believe you are much more experienced in the realm of Sly 3 than I am. Also, Nave in chat, thank you. Beaver is on the Australian Outback. They are 2-0, tied for the league lead. Thank you for the clarification. But Yaki, what job in this episode do you think is going to have the biggest impact on the race? Off the top of my head, I was going to say Lemon Rage or Big Truck, but I want to hear what you were thinking about that.
Well, in my opinion, Lemon Rage's cutscene skip isn't even that hard. If you know the correct angle, you should be getting that almost every time. I think the most impactful job will probably be the big truck because there's so much RNG on the red scorpions spawning, and if you fail the climbing the tower, that also can cost you a lot of time.
Yeah, right on. Like you said, there's a lot of execution heavy stuff to worry about here. And that job is no different, not only with RNG, but also the big climb up the drill in the latter half of the job being remarkably skill based. And despite there being no timer like the Master Thief challenge, It's going to determine a lot. So far, though, we're seeing both runners virtually neck and neck right out of Search for the Guru. Very good race to start. And I believe our next job is spelunking with Murray. It's the cave platforming job.
That actually can vary, since there is no difference in times depending if you do spelunking or dark caves first. Normally we do spelunking first because there's more RNG uh, involving spelunking and big truck. So if we are doing normal episode runs, we can reset after a bad RNG. But it seems that both of the runners are going for spelunking first, and also they both nail the infamous Ricky rolls over the murky waters.
Yes, very good. I know that jump in practice that I have tried. That jump is a lot harder than it looks, so great job to both of our runners. We also see Avatar on the left taking full advantage of the Berserker charge, which, due to the new episode rules for both Sly 3 and Sly 4, you can have purchased at the very start of the run. So, very good on his part. Jake, of course, still being able to nail it. So, happy to see that on both parts. Yeah. So going into spelunking now, great job. And this, I believe this job is mainly just very platform based. It's very consistent from my understanding, besides maybe the very end, which can be kind of annoying where you're throwing the big guy into the drill.
Yeah, that is true, because all the guard spawns are already coded, so you know when the where the guards will be, you know where the rocks will be that you need to destroy in order to progress, you know which rocks you can skip. Everything is predetermined, so it's gonna be quite even until the last moment, since there you have to do quite a couple of really precise inputs in order to get the dark mask. What is the name of the mask? Mask of the
The
Dark
Mask of
Earth.
Dark Earth.
Yes,
Got
that
it.
is true. The guard that has the mask, you have to pick him up before he does the animation of getting back up, so that you don't take damage and you can get the guard as soon as possible.
Jake, we see on the right side of the screen having a tiny bit of trouble with that little Ricky roll jump over the rock. So Avatar having a slight lead, of course, not very monumental, but still time is time that we will be keeping track of throughout the run. But yes, episode 2, while perhaps not the hardest episode in Sly 3, according to most, there is still a lot of places where things can go very, very wrong if you are not careful. And day one of this is no different. We already talked much about Big Truck, how infamous of a job that is, but also even in Dark Caves with things like the circle boost skips you can do at the end of the second section. I've seen multiple people struggle with that. I'm not sure if I foresee either of our runners struggling heavily with that, but once again, we will see. Pressure can do many kinds of different things to a man, and so we will see how that goes. So far, though, so again, besides the one little mishap from Jake on the right side, still a very close race.
Yes, that is true. I believe Jake had a little bit of trouble with the flashlight guard, if I saw correctly. But otherwise, it has been quite easy and solid for both runners so far.
Yes, I was looking over to the left side right as it happened, but I saw him kind of double jump over the flashlight guard once again, where I think you're normally supposed to like throw a rock at that guy. So forgive me for not exactly seeing what he was doing out the corner of my eye, but once again, not a huge detriment right now, as you guys can probably tell while watching here at home. Very close race, and I'm very happy that we have these two wonderful runners here on the same skill level. So I guess while these two are finishing up this job, which how are you feeling about the matchups that are coming after this one? So once again, we have, I believe, Sneak is going to be on 2-2 for the Lumberjacks, Augie going to 2-2 for the Peacocks, and then we're going to have Slink and Avatar on 4-2. How are you feeling about those matchups for both teams? Do you think there's a favorite for either one?
I have a feeling that maybe Augie has a slight advantage in Sly 2 compared to Slink, but then again, at Sly 4, Sneak and Inator are quite evenly matched, in my opinion at least. But then again, I haven't seen these runners run these specific episodes in quite a long time, so I'm not that sure, but I have a hunch.
Yes, no, very interesting to consider. I do not believe we have seen Avatar run any Sly 4 episodes in this tournament thus far, even though he has said that he is not closed off from running Sly 4. He will run it and he plans to relearn it at some point. And something worth mentioning for some of you that may not know, Avatar is still a very consistent runner for Sly 4. Before I broke into the top 5, not to put myself on a pedestal, of course, but before I broke into the top 5 of any percent in Sly 4 full game, Avatar was top 4 or top 5 there, excuse me, for a very long time. Very respected runner, and he was also a former world record holder in Sly 4 Episode 1. He sure gave me a heck of a time trying to get that record that Slink eventually took from him. But make no mistake, Avatar, I still believe, has a very good matchup against Slink in that episode, in spite of Slink's experience. It's just going to be a matter of whether or not Avatar has learned all of the new skips for episode 2 involving Jailbreak and Jailhouse Blues. Meanwhile, like you were saying for Sly 2, I think Augie, if I'm not mistaken, he is just very experienced in Sly 2. He's been running Sly 2 for a very long time. He has gotten a lot of respectable runs, also had a world record in Sly 2 Episode 1 at one point. So, if anything for experience, I would have to give that to Augie as well. But as we've kind of talked about before, we will have to see the situation that both runners are in by the time we get to there. And this might be where we finally start to see some big divergence. Of course, Jake a little far behind, not far behind, but a little tiny bit behind because of the one mishap. But now we get to everybody's favorite job, and we are going to hop inside of the big truck. So, Yaki, for those of you who may not be, or for those who may not be familiar with Sly 3, could you kind of elaborate on why this job is so RNG heavy, or why runners kind of hate this job?
Well, first of all, it's a quite tricky job because I believe the spawn of the red scorpions is scripted, that they spawn every X amount of blue scorpions being despawned or killed. So you have to also be always looking up for the red scorpions, but at the same time trying to drive over as many blue scorpions as possible. At the second stage, obviously, to keep your tires cool. And also, there's the climbing puzzle at the middle, as we said earlier, that can be a little bit tricky if you don't know exactly what you're doing.
You know, that can definitely trip.
Versla de wachters en start de boor. Dan kan Murray beginnen met fase 2 van mijn plan.
Okay, and breaking news here from the commentary booth, ladies and gentlemen. We have just received word that Takei is indeed going to show up. So changing the matchup now, Takei is going to Cottonmount Bluff to play Slink in 4-2, and I'm not entirely familiar with Takei's experience in Sly 4, but that really changes things.
Actually, we don't know which order Ogi and Takei will be playing, but obviously we assume that. But we don't know. They might switch that up.
I suppose that is very true. I guess this entire time, based on what you said, because I thought it was reasonable, we've been assuming that Avatar was going to be in that second slot. But then again, I guess there is a very good chance that I could be wrong, considering Augie did run 4-2 in the first match he played in this tournament against Remo, and he did a fairly good job at it, mind you, so by no means is he going to be a pushover in that episode. Once again, pardon me, I am just not exactly familiar with Takei's experience in Sly 4, how much of it he's run entirely. Should Takei be stuck on 4-2, though, Slink is absolutely not going to give him a lot of breathing room. So, I guess, which matchup would you prefer to see Takei on, or how do you feel that the order would best suit the Peacocks at this point?
I think that they still should put Ogi on Sly 2, because that is the point where they can gain an advantage. So they should take that, in my opinion.
I definitely do make a good point there. Looking at the notes, Takei has explicitly said that he does not plan to run Sly 4 for this event. So if the order was already predetermined and now he's going to be stuck running a Sly 4 episode that he may not have had intention of running, that is going to be very interesting, but we'll have to see. Once again, that answer will come to us as soon as this episode gets over and done with. We'll be heading to 2-2 next. Should Takei end up at 2-2, I believe that the Lumberjacks, or pardon me, the Peacocks will be in a very good spot. Takei, of course, has already run 2 Sly 2 episodes in this event in the form of 2-1 in 2-3, where despite the losses, he played very close episode runs, and he did not make it easy. As we see on the left side, Avatar, as you were saying, Yaki, having a little bit of trouble with this crane climb, giving Jake a little bit of a chance to catch up, so we'll have to see if he can capitalize on this.
Avatar also had really bad luck with the Red Scorpions. They were all bunched up, and he couldn't pick them all up as he wanted. And also his tires were getting too hot, so he had to do a victory lap around the drill in order to get the last Red Scorpion.
Well, whatever the case, we are back dead even, basically again. So, like you were saying, Yaki, this is where things are going to get interesting, because now that there's no water, they are really going to have to be mindful of keeping their tires cool and trying to squish as many blue scorpions for spawns as they possibly can. So this is going to get interesting. You see Jake on the right side having a little bit of good luck with all the red scorpions right there. Hopefully for Avatar's sake, he is going to have a little bit better luck. So just to reiterate one more time for the audience, the more blue scorpions you squish, the more chances there are for red scorpions to spawn. Do I have that correct?
Now that I think about it again, I think there's a specific amount of scorpions allowed at the map at certain time, and there's a certain chance or a certain amount of scorpions that you have to squish before red ones spawn. So the more blue scorpions you squish, the more red scorpions will eventually spawn.
Mm-hmm. It makes perfect sense. So basically, like, it's not tied to color or anything, you know, as it should never be. It's more so just about, like, hey, only a certain amount of scorpions can be in the map at a certain time. And just, hey, the more chances you have to squish, the more scorpions are going to spawn. And, hey, some of those just might be red. So we'll see how that goes. I feel like now in this second half here, Avatar not having incredible luck, especially not after the first half, but still, both players, you can tell that these guys are relatively experienced in this game. Avatar, meanwhile, oh my gosh, getting rocketed across the map there. That's going to lose him a little bit of time, but should still be in a good situation here. Yeah, that can happen. I believe I'm not going to call that a proxy, but it almost looks like a proxy. Avatar
I'd say that was a proxy.
Yeah.
If I'm correct, that happens when, for some reason, a part of the truck gets stuck inside the rocky textures of the map, and the game obviously proxies you off in order to avoid soft locks.
Makes perfect sense. Avatar also kind of poking fun at that little flip in the chat. So once again, a little bit of unfortunate luck for Avatar there at the beginning of Big Truck, and also the fall down the crane has given Jake a little bit of breathing room. So still a very close race by all means. Yaki, based on what you were saying earlier and based on what I've seen, I'm inclined to agree with you. Once we get to Lemon Rage, barring some guard shenanigans or barring some recklessness from one of our players, I would like to believe that both of these players are perfectly capable of hitting the Lemon Rage cutscene skip. But even still, even with those minor mishaps on Avatar's part, still a very close race. And now we get into the job that I was talking about, the one that you said we could diverge for, is Dark Caves. So what can you tell us about this job, Yaki?
This also is a very movement-paced technical job. First of all, you have to get into 2 different caves that have some specific movement in them. And first of them has some drill movement, a couple of jumps over some guards and over some scaffoldings or whatever you call them. And the second one, or actually the first one, also has a very specific jump that saves you a lot of time. You don't have to go around some drills, you can just jump straight to the end. Or as you see the drills here, you can jump to these drills from the...
Yeah, I always thought this was one of... Go ahead, please. I'm sorry.
Yeah, from the ledge above. And when we get to the second cave, that is the more hard, in my opinion, especially because that has the circle boost strats that you were previously
Yes.
saying.
Yeah, that is one trick that if you have not practiced that, it is definitely not free. The area you have to stand on to try and complete that little circle boost is relatively small, and you also have to be able to time your jump relatively well. This is not terribly hard, especially not with some practice, and we see both of these runners getting by relatively fine going to the safes. So I guess while we're here, is it possible that the safes can also glitch out depending on how you open them? Because I remember I was practicing this game relatively recently, and I think there's some glitch in certain jobs with the safe openings where depending on how you open it, like if the dial is still spinning when it goes green and you open it, the game just doesn't like that on these re-releases and it might just crash.
That is a very good question. I haven't seen that myself, but I have a feeling that is a thing. I'm not quite sure because I,
I
I,
know
I haven't I haven't myself seen that.
I know for a fact it is a thing in 3-1 in the very first job. I've seen that very much. I've done that, unfortunately, a handful of times. Avatar, meanwhile, on the left side, having a little bit of trouble with the little bit of a skip there. You can do a fancy little jump to attach to the pipes below to avoid some extra platforming, nearly dying, but thankfully making it through. Now, though, is a little bit of movement behind as Jake goes into the second dark cave. Although, like we were just saying, this is where we are going to see if Jake is well practiced with this and how he is going to do this skip, because there is a very tricky circle boost coming up at the very end of this cave. Got to line it up, got to wait for it pretty well, and while I do not have many doubts about Jake's skill level, this trick can still be very annoying, so we'll have to see if he hits it, of course, after opening another safe.
That is true, and there is actually two different ways for doing the circle boost. It's the more difficult, the faster way, and also there's the disguise jump way, where you jump to the left of the opening of the cave and land on a little ledge. But we shall see which strats these runners will use.
Yeah, Avatar also something to keep in mind right now is because of the mishaps earlier with the first little skip. He is on one hit, so he's not going to have many shots at this. Jake, of course, we see, not of course, I don't know why I said of course, but Jake, unfortunately, rather, failing that the first time. Interestingly, not interestingly enough, what am I saying? I'm acting like you don't have to do a disguise jump, but I'm pretty sure this has always been a part of the trick. Jake taking a little bit of time to try and get this. We'll have to see if he can get this time around. There he goes, third try. Avatar, meanwhile, getting that very quickly, and he is already headed back. And for the third time I've said this race, look at this. One little swing, one little skill differentiation from the other, and these runners are right back even, folks. This is kind of how I figured this was going to be as we started this show, but two very good runners on display here, and that is the conclusion of day one for both of these, or rather, it would be if not for Unleash the Guru finally concluding day one. Which, speaking of which, I think we should finally go back to. I'm sorry if I've been ranting a little while. Yaki, what can you tell me about Unleash the Guru and about the guard spawns of that job? Because it's very tacky.
It is. It is. I think the guard spawns are just normal guard spawns, but the camera manipulation has a lot to do with it, since Sly 3 has this slight optimization trick that it won't spawn guards where you aren't looking. So you have to know the specific spots that guards will spawn into and try to look into them when you are moving. And also we have some nice little tricks at the last part of Unleash the Guru where you destroy the generator, but we shall get there when we get there.
Yes, absolutely. I know exactly what you're referring to, where you take a guard and you kind of only use one when normally you would have to use a handful. That's another kind of place that can really swing if one of our runners ends up destroying things by mistake. But yeah, this is yet another place where I feel we're really going to see some skill come into play with almost a sort of reverse guard spawn manipulation, as I've heard people call it, where you want to try and get into an area where you can get a lot of guys to pop up for the guru to take advantage of and destroy the drills with. So not too bad for the first part of this job. As long as both of these runners get a guard after they come out of the prison cell, they should be able to move to the first main section with relative ease, but that is where things will start getting a lot more interesting as we see both these guys begin to break out.
Yes, so first thing the guru has to do obviously is break out, which is just break the gate. And very conveniently there is a guard just below the prison that Guru was held in, and you can instantly get him. And oh, very unfortunate. What am I talking? Ah, for some reason I was thinking that you were supposed to destroy the drills at the already, but I was wrong, because Avatar did a neat little trick here. He already got 2 guards in the binocicum of Guru, so they will not despawn when the cutscene ends. Because normally, when you exit the cutscene, guards that are outside the field of view will exit or will despawn.
Very, as you saw there on the left side, very clean execution there from Avatar, like you said. A little bit of luck, but having those guys in the camera right there, very convenient. And we're going to see him catch another break here with the flashlight guard right there. So he's going to be able to finish this up in no time flat. Meanwhile, Jake just now running back his second guard, and you can just see there lining up his angles. He knows he's got it. Very experienced runner. He is on his way to the last section. Avatar now trying to get some distance, but we will see if he's able to nail this last little trick here as they try to destroy the grinder that's tearing up Wave Rock.
Or some kind of huge saw. I don't know what is that called.
I think that's the line in English. Somebody can fact check the copy pasta and chat for me, but I think the line is like, that grinder is tearing up Wave Rock is how that goes. That's what I was alluding to. If fine either way. Jake
well,
almost looking like
that sounds like something Bentley would say.
Hold on, right. Regardless, though, now we're going to see the interesting part. Avatar going to bring the kangaroo over, and we'll see if he can get this relative ease, and he does. Avatar with some good luck after the unfortunate big truck. Oh my gosh. Jake nearly just got a load of dynamite from the chopper dropped on his face. That would have been very unfortunate. Jake as well coming up to the generator and destroying all 3 bars with ease. So still not very far away between these 2 runners. Once again, Avatar getting a little bit of fortunate luck and having the skill to keep the guards in view when it comes to making sure they're around in order to destroy the generator. But still a very close race as Avatar gets a slight boost heading up into Hungry Croc, which is there much to say about this job when you're not grinding coins for it? Other than like tilt the camera away so the guards don't hit you?
Well, apart from the camera stuff, not really.
Yeah. So, unfortunately, like a couple of down jobs, I feel like I guess I shouldn't say down jobs we're gonna have in a row here, but this job, if you've got the movement right, you're not really grinding for coins. This should be okay as long as nobody prematurely throws the last flashlight guard into the river instead of hitting the croc. And then, of course, we have everybody's favorite job in massive quotation marks in Big Claw, which kind of wish this was like a GDQ event, so then during that job we could read off some donations or something. But then after that, we'll get to one of the bigger swings in Lemon Rage. We'll get to Operation, which is also going to have some bigger swings. And then we will get to Episode 2, which, Yaki, maybe you could give us a little preview of that, because that is one episode that I am not particularly knowledgeable about.
Slide to episode 2. Well, probably the main thing people are interested in that episode is the bottle crash strat that we use nowadays in order to enter the 2 jobs at the palace, so would you call. And also the second major skip is at the start of the episode where you go around the rock in order to skip the intro cutscene where Bentley is telling Sly that, oh, there's this big wall in the way of us and you need to get the bridge down so we can enter the palace and so on. But yeah, those are the main exciting points of the episode. There's also a little bit of RNG involved in the recon the ballroom, where how many normal guards you will get. That is totally RNG based. And yeah, I think that just about sums it up. Then there's some technical stuff with the destroying of the helicopter. I can't remember the name of the episode or name of the job, but you know what I'm talking about. And
In it,
also with the Bentley's helicopter.
oh yeah, the what is it? I can't remember. I think it literally is just called Destroy the Chopper, where Murray's like, okay, I had a potato gun once. I bet it works just the same. And then we have, of course, the RC Chopper mission, where Bentley has to take out the surface to air defenses system with the RC Chopper using bombs. That was always a fun mission when I was playing this game as a kid. But yeah, definitely still a lot to look forward to in the realm of episode 2 jobs. Going to be very interesting to see the different experience levels and also the bottle crash. I honestly forgot about the bottle crash strat there, which also makes me wonder. So I understand it's from my understanding that Sneak has mainly just been learning Sly 2 right now for this tournament. So I wonder if he has been practicing the bottle crash strat. And in the event that maybe one of our runners isn't taking advantage of that, how much time does that save or lose, do you think?
If you get it first try without any overly hassle, it saves quite a lot of time because you save all of the movement that you have to go through the palace or and jump to the balcony or anything like that. So it saves quite a lot.
Because getting across the rocks and then getting across the rope, square boosting over the gap, and then knocking on the front door, all of that gets immediately skipped. And then right after that, does it? It doesn't immediately warp you to what is it? I don't even remember half of the job names in Sly 2, but you know what I'm talking about. The job immediately following that, steal a tuxedo. Does it immediately warp you to the zone for that, or do you still have to walk there?
I believe you can use the bottle crest for that. I'm not totally sure because I haven't seen Sly 2 in quite a while, and also I haven't run it in quite a while. But I think you can use it for both the palace missions. First, steal the tuxedo, and then the what is the name of the dancing job? Too many jobs, so I can't remember all of the
Yeah,
names.
as Nave is reminding all of the wonderful people in chat, you can find all of the job names as well as all of the best community segments for the jobs at slygolds.com, the sponsor and also wonderful producer for the ACES competition. Dominate the dance floor. That is the name of
Yes,
it.
that is the name of the job. Yes.
Uh, something funny to kind of go off topic for a little while we're dealing with the claw and while our runners are very experienced, I don't anticipate them making too many mistakes here. I never really realized how many of Sly 3's jobs I preferred as far as the entire series goes until I started to make a bit of a tier list for all the jobs across the entire series. Now, overall, I still personally believe that Sly 2 is the best game in the series. People will have their different opinions about that. But I just think Sly 3, when you're not at its low points, like when you're not playing Claw or when you're not playing some other overall episodes that just like aren't as fun in casual play, Sly 3 just has a lot of really fun jobs, like Wedding Crasher, it has King of Fire, it has the Aces competition, a lot of jobs in episode 3, at least when you're not speedrunning it. But yeah, I know that's, and also Lemon Rage, of course. I know for the speed run, it can be a little bit stressful, a little bit time consuming. But I remember, I think a lot of us as kids absolutely love that job just for the music, the chaos of it. Been a great time. Yaki, I don't know if you feel the same way about that, but yeah, I really like a lot of Sly 3's missions. I don't know how you feel about it.
Yeah, they are quite exciting and interesting, and well, just plainly fun when you're not getting these kind of boring-ish jobs. But then again, because Sly 2 was probably the best or the first PlayStation game I ever played, so it still has a special place in my heart.
Yeah, no, definitely. I think for a lot of people here, these games in one way or another are a big part of maybe even our lives. To that might be a little bit of a stretch, but no, I still think yeah, Sly 2 was definitely one of the first PlayStation games I played as a kid, and I still vividly remember the day I got Sly 3. I remember we had to stop at like a Home Depot or something right after I got the game on the way home, and like I couldn't just wait to play it. And yeah, no, both of the games are still, you know, for better or worse, like a big part of my life and are a great form of nostalgia. And I'm really happy to see that in events like these and through different communities and different speedruns, people are still keeping them alive. People are still pushing them. So cheers to all of you for that. This community is what makes events like this super awesome. And I'm definitely happy to be commentating here still. Didn't mean to make that super cheesy, but you know, I'll feel better.
Me too, brother. Me too.
Amen to that. Meanwhile, I guess back to the game. Are we? This is the second to last section. This isn't the last one because the last one has you put the stuff on the little seesaw-looking catapult thing and shoot it over the oil rigs. So we still got one little thing left to go. I think one of the newer developments in recent years was I think we used to drop Murray into the rivers in between these sections to do that little skip ahead, but now people looks like it just drops. They just drop objects onto Murray's head, and that does the job just fine. So both runners taking advantage of that. Jake also he is like one of the only people I've ever seen that's actually dropping the guards into the little pits there. Part of me kind of forgot you could do that. Not that it's a bad thing to my knowledge. I don't think it like loses time or anything, but I never used to do that. I always just have seen people throw into the fence, so it's kind of funny to see.
To be honest, I think it doesn't really matter since the guard spawns are scripted already. They have a certain interval they will spawn in, and you just have to count how many guards there are and kill them as fast as possible.
Yeah, I think you are definitely right. There we see Avatar dropping Murray into the pit, getting onto the last section of the job. But yeah, so if I remember correctly, kind of like what you said, the guard spawns are scripted. So if you practice this job enough, you've probably got a decent idea of the time frame for when you need to start really going. But yeah, like the main thing that matters to progress the job really is just when Murray decides that the oil wells are all flowing and fired up. And then after that, you know, you're all free to just kill the guys off as quickly as you can and really get to the last part of this. So this job, unfortunately, you know, I don't want to talk it down because everybody does, but it's just something that unfortunately both in speedruns and I feel in casual play is what you see is what you get. But thankfully on the left side now, we see Avatar finally finishing the job and hopefully not giving Murray some kind of mercury or lead poisoning because that looks very, very dangerous. We're also going to smother him in that stuff later. So prayers for our boy. Hopefully he's doing okay and not terribly ill after this. But yeah, coming up now we have Lemon Rage. So we already talked a little bit about the Lemon Rage cutscene skip and possibly a little bit about the boss fights. What is there to say about the fight before all of that stuff with the different sections of Bentley and Sly?
Um, there's not too much to talk about it. People usually use the electric fence because it kills the guards in 1 or 2 hits. I'm not quite sure. I don't remember.
I
But the
think it's
main
two.
point, 2 hits. Okay, that is that. Then I remembered correctly. But the main part that people have to know or remember is that it is scripted how many guards you have to kill, but also the other members of the gang are trying to kill the guards also. So you have to remember that if you hit a guard and then a gang member kills it, it already counts, or it also counts. So you just have to hit as many guards as you can and then let the other members help you. Well, usually they other members aren't that helpful, but yeah.
Yeah, well, I mean, hey, like you said, I mean, if you can just touch a guard and then have Murray kill it off, that's also very useful, which I guess is more useful for earlier when you're not playing as Murray. Like, if you're playing as Bentley and you're having difficulty using the electric fence, maybe you could, like, feed a guard you've already touched to Murray and kind of help that along. I feel like in most cases, though, you'll just see people try and hit them into the electric fence right off the gate, or even just use Trigger Bomb to try and blow people up instantly. So perhaps not the most useful thing, but all the same, all the same. Trying to, of course, be fast as you can, which we're not going to be able to see really quick because, well, we do have a very iconic section coming up. I believe all the button inputs are capped at a certain mashing speed, as most inputs are in a lot of these games, barring a few instances in Sly 4. But still, very iconic section, and something I will be able to post about right about now. There we go.
Yeah, so Now the Cooper gang is just gonna chug 3 pints of lemonade.
Don't try this at home, kids.
Yeah, do not try this at home.
Yeah, I don't know if many bars will be selling lemon. If you're just drinking lemonade, then maybe it's okay. But if you're drinking particular other kind of beverage, yeah, especially don't try this at home. Not everybody has the stomach capacity that good old Murray does, and if you spill as much lemonade as Bentley does, well, people who run that place may not be too happy with you either way. But yeah, just good to see some little chuggers here. Got a little chuggers emotes popping in the chat. Feels good. And now we will get to the good stuff. Still very close, like I said. I know we've had a few moments where Jake has had a little bit of a slip up, and Avatar's had a little bit of a slip up, but very good episode runs overall by both of these runners.
Yeah, nothing too major. Only slight mishaps now and then.
Yeah, obviously, Avatar, really good start there, just immediately killing guys. Oh, beautiful start to that by Avatar.
Very satisfying.
Yeah, that is not easy to do, by the way, to hit all 3 of those guys immediately into the electric fence and then just have one guy to take out with Trigger Bomb. Very good job by Avatar. We'll have to see if Jake can kind of replicate the same stuff here. Avatar also taking advantage of the campfire and some other obstacles with Sly. Also using Knockout Dive, which I don't know if I've ever seen anybody use, but that's honestly some pretty cool tech to kind of get guys down and then be able to just stealth slam them instantly. I really like that idea. Have you ever seen that before?
I don't think I actually have. That is a really cool little tactic, since it's quite new that you are allowed to have the additional gadgets. That's really neat.
Yeah, no, I've never seen that before either. I don't even think, like, when I've seen people do this Master Thief challenge where you have to kill these guys as fast as possible, I've always just seen people hitting the guards into the torches with Sly and whatnot. Like, kind of like what Jake's doing right now. You can see him on the right side. I don't think he has that. He's doing a very good job still. He was hitting the guys up into the torches, getting some quick knockdowns, and now he's finally transitioning to the Murray section. And Avatar, meanwhile, on the left side, big moment coming up here. I know we just were talking earlier that it wasn't super difficult, but hold your breath because nothing is over until it's over. We'll have to see if he can land this cutscene skip, which is going to be a big one, and should either of our runners fail it, it's going to be a big moment in time. We'll have to see what happens. He's just waiting on his teammates to take out the rest of the guards here. Don't know what's going to happen pretty soon.
He maybe caught a guard a little too early. He could have waited a little bit longer. And he doesn't get it. Oh no.
Okay, well, to be fair, that is a lot better than him not getting the skip and having to redo the entire fight. But yeah, unfortunate break there for Avatar. Not the worst outcome, but ooh, if Jake is able to hit the... And Jake didn't even... I don't think he even attempted it. Did he even take his health down?
I think he attempted it, but didn't have time to grab the last guard until Bentley killed him.
Wow. That's... Wow, so huge development there. We spent so much time talking this trick up, and then neither of our runners end up getting it. Avatar, once again, like... Oh my gosh, if you're the Peacocks right now, you are taking a deep breath because that could have been absolutely disastrous. That would have been like at least a minute of time loss. That would have given Jake some huge leeway, and this race might have been over before it could have truly gotten started. I guess I shouldn't say that when we have multiple episodes left to go, and especially now we have an RNG-dependent episode in episode 2-2 left. But yeah, no, thankful break for both of our runners here, and this race stays pretty much even.
Now we can see Avatar using the push boost attacks, which I will explain a little bit later why he's doing that. But he's also using the cheese tactics, where the guard dashes towards Sly, and at the dash hits the barrel, so that Murray doesn't have to pick it up and throw it at the guard. And about the push boosts do a little more damage than the normal Sly swinging to cane, so you can actually skip one cycle of these attacks if you get all the push boost attacks, or the push attacks.
Did anybody see what just happened to Jake? I thought his screen just like reset. What happened? Because he didn't die, did he? Murray died? That can happen?
Murray died. Murray fell
What?
through the floor. Well, that sounds like a really unfortunate
What?
event. I didn't know that could happen.
I was gonna say, I've never heard of that before.
I know you can proxy the guard over the roof, but
Yeah.
I didn't know Murray could proxy through the floor.
So what? Like the guard got stuck between. So because usually when the guard gets stuck between Murray's barrel and the wall, it's usually the guard that gets clipped out. But Murray got pushed out instead, and for whatever. Well, I guess like first of all, that's a good failsafe on the game because if Murray died, then like they couldn't continue the fight, and that would be a huge problem. But
That would be a soft lock.
man, yeah, that absolutely would be a soft lock. I mean, granted, the guard is still here, so you could kill yourself and then reset the room, but.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And
no,
as you can see right now on Jake's screen, he missed one of the push attacks, so the guard is now on 1 HP, and he just has to do the last hit, and the job is done.
Yeah, you have to hit every single push attack in order for that to save a cycle, right?
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, wow. I'm sorry. To everyone in chat, I'm sorry we didn't have more of a reaction to that. I was looking over at Avatar for like another second. I look back over and all I see is the blue mask flash in. Sly's still standing there, and I was like, wait a minute. I didn't even understand what just happened. So once again, like things could have gone a whole lot worse in that job, but things also could have gone a whole lot better. Avatar, meanwhile, oh my goodness, like again, he's probably counting his blessings right now that guard just died, period, and that he's not having to still do this fight over again, because even with the unfortunate troll, Avatar would be a ways behind Jake should that have happened.
Yeah, he's counting his lives now. 8 left.
I guess he is like one of the closer things to a cat we have around, you know. Is Eevee like does he count as a cat? Like Leafeon? It's kind of closer to a cat, I guess. Maybe a dog? I don't know.
I don't know. Not sure. I've never seen him in person, so I don't know.
I remember seeing him in person a couple of times, but yeah, I'm not gonna comment on people's appearances during a live event. Not that I would have anything outlandish or negative to say about Avatar, because we love Avatar. Good guy. Done a lot for this community. But anyways, back to the more relevant stuff at the moment. We are on to Operation Moon Crash, where we finally take out this stupid mask. Starting with the Guru, where we just have more of kind of what we saw earlier in the job where we were destroying the drills. Just have to make sure you do some good guard spawn manipulation to get some guys in a good position. As we see Avatar falling into the water, not really going to affect anything. Just taking out the first part with the chopper. Now, the next part is one of the more interesting ones. So, this is a part that, personally in practice, I've had a lot of struggles with. What are the tips for shooting Carmelita effectively with the sleep darts in this section? Do you have any idea?
You just have to remember where Carmelita stops. So you can pre-aim at those points and then start shooting and get him stun locked. Because if you try to shoot him while she's moving, that's gonna be lost cause, since I think the stopping points are scripted. I'm not totally sure, but I have a feeling they are scripted.
Yeah. Also, what are the odds that she goes in either direction at the start? Because I know that she can go either left or right, but I feel like I've seen her go one direction more often. But I'm not sure if there's like a percentage on that or what.
I'm pretty sure there is a percentage, but I can't remember that from the top of my head at the moment, at least.
Perfectly all right. Like I said, this section can just be very annoying if you haven't practiced it or if you don't know relatively where Carmelita would stop, especially with a little bit of a reload time every time you shoot a sleep dart with Bentley. So if you get flustered and you try and just go all out, then you may end up losing some time to just firing darts willy-nilly. You've also got to be wary of where you're standing on that platform, because Carmelita, believe it or not, can still shoot you. We see Avatar, though, getting a snipe relatively early, firing off a very good shot there. Looks like he's pretty safe, and it looks like he's going to be able to pick Carmelita off very efficiently with the sleep darts. So very good section there by Avatar, making it look easy in spite of how annoying this section could be, especially for casual players. And he's going to move on to the Big Claw and then close the episode out. You see Avatar kind of commenting on that as well, trying to pull a fast one, as he puts it. Interesting developments there.
Yeah, that one statement from Avatar, I'd say that it's not scripted where Commentator stops, so you just have to guess. Or just pre-fire, like we saw Jake doing really nicely.
That was a phenomenal snipe by Jake. I don't know if you just saw that. We also, by the way, funny enough, when we were just talking about it, we saw Carmelita go to the left on Jake's side, and we saw her go to the right on Avatar's side. Jake, however, just pulled an absolutely phenomenal snipe, stopping Carm dead in her tracks and getting all those shots right away. So beautiful section by both of our players here. And as we begin to wrap up in Australia here, we are probably going to see our other runners in Takei and Sneak beginning preparations as we go back to India. Is it just like, okay, India is a broad spectrum. Do we know exactly where the area is for 2-2? Because I know it's like, I think it's somewhere in India, but I'm not exactly sure of like country or province or whatnot.
I am not totally sure. They were in some cutscene talking about Bollywood, but I'm not that sure.
Yeah. I kind of remember as a kid, like the opening cutscene, at least in English, Sly literally just bluntly says, another clogging part had surfaced in India. But, you know, India is a pretty big place. So, not quite specific on that. Not that it's that important for the actual commentary for the sake of the run, of course. It's just interesting to kind of talk about or refer to the episodes by the area as, you know, a different kind of thing. But anyways, we see Avatar now about to climb up Carmelarja and finish that up. Not a whole lot to talk about there, just as long as you are careful with where you jump, you know what you're doing, it's okay. This section, however, that Jake is on right now can be kind of annoying because Carm can duck too far to the left or right at some points where it's very annoying to hit her with TNT, but it looks like Jake is finishing that up now. All right. Alright, the Grunks. Okay,
actually,
so
this previous cutscene that Avatar already watched and Jake is currently in, they are talking about a giant robot, or Murray says that they need a giant robot. Well, gladly, Gravitar or the Countess does have a giant robot that is disguised as a water tower, but unfortunately we don't have that in our use. Avatar gets the first half of the mask pretty nicely, and let's see if he gets any unoptimal circle boosts. No, he doesn't, and he gets the second part really nicely.
GG's to Avatar. That is the end of episode 2 for the Peacocks, and now we see... Is Takei already... I think he may have started a little bit prematurely? Question mark?
That might have something to do if Avatar's stream was a little bit late, there was some kind of lag that could cause this seemingly going prematurely.
Potentially, yes. Of course, I'm not going to make any accusations. I assume they're, you know, gentlemen's rules. I'm not gonna say anything like that. But yeah,
I'd assume it's just the restreams being a little bit laggy.
Yeah, that's what I would
we did see some frame loss at the start of the Avatar run, if I remember correctly.
I think you were definitely right. I did see on the left side there was a tiny bit of lag at the start of the stream, but not a whole lot of differentiation now. And another little bit of a spike there on Takei's end. So here we are, though, on the side of Takei as Jake finishes up there. Once again, GG's to Jake. Both runners doing a phenomenal job in that episode. And now we're going to see Sneak outside of the hideout and begin with phenomenal movement to try and get over the drawbridge and completely skip the cutscene. Excellent job by him to get over that. Makes that look a lot easier than it really is. Now, on to Takei's side, where things are getting interesting in this job, and perhaps one of the biggest swings. Is there anything more you can tell us about the guard RNG? Like, are there numbers involved? Is there any, like, specifics to it, or is it just, it happens?
I think it's just pure RNG. How many guards spawn? I don't know what are the percentages of the clogging members compared to normal guard spawning, but it's just RNG.
So, Not much to talk about here. Of course, just hoping for the best for both runners. As we see once again, Takei and Sneak both having great movement over the drawbridge and getting here relatively quickly. Takei, of course, having a little bit of room with all the shenanigans that happened in episode 3 to both players. And once again, this race could have been so different. It's crazy to think about how this would have happened or how this would have turned out had that Lemon Rage cutscene skip gone a little bit differently. But I think this is the best case scenario. Both runners having a good start here. We saw on the left side Takei getting a little bit bad with the RNG, and I think Sneak now having 2 guards. So we'll have to see how the rest of this turns out as
Oh
Takei
no,
finishes up.
more guards for Sneak.
Oh. Yeah, so there you go. That's a example of just how bad RNG can really be with everything that's happened here. So Takei is getting a little bit of a jump ahead as Sneak is going to try and clean up both of the cops and the rest of the Claw Gang members.
And by the way, one thing about Slide 2 runs is that we actually run the game in Korean, because that is the most optimal language. It saves literally minutes compared to the second fastest language in the whole game run. Probably someone, Remo, can confirm us how many minutes actually the full game run saves.
I'm going off on a whim here. I think across the entire game, Korean is 9.5 minutes. If I remember that correctly, as we see over on the left side, Takei trying his hand at a cutscene skip over on the conical rocks, but unfortunately hits the cutscene. Hopefully, for his sake, he just ledge grabbed back onto the little side of the grass there. There is an outcome where you can slip underneath the death plane and get stuck, which would require him to load. Thankfully, didn't happen though, so he's going to be okay. A little bit of time lost there, but he's going to move on. And honestly, it's not that bad of a loss right now, unless he's going to do a lot more things like that, but still looking okay right now. Big problem over there on the right was that Sneak just had some pretty terrible guard RNG, so unfortunate break for the Lumberjacks there, but still a long way to go.
Yeah, that is true. Gladly he did get the ledge grab, so he didn't have to restart the game, or not restart. He just has to load up the game, but possibly watch the cutscene again.
Yeah, no, if he had to go to the PS menu and restart the game every single time he did that, that would just be brutal and horrible. But meanwhile, back on the left side for Takei, while we're still looking at Sneak loading back into the game, as he may or may not attempt that cutscene skip that Takei just tried. We'll see. Is it fair to say that this is one of the more consistent jobs in episode 2?
I wouldn't say consistent, because the guard spawns can be a little bit finicky if you don't control your camera 100%. But if you are a fluent runner, it should be quite consistent, because you know where the guards that have the keys are, you know how to get the keys, you know that you have to have a specific amount of HP at the last guard so he can kill you and so on. But yeah, there's a little bit of finicky, but other than that, it shouldn't be too much of a problem.
Looks all right now. And we are also getting word from the moderators. So we're getting word that that's from Stevens in chat that this is a 1:30 difference. It really doesn't feel that big, does it? Like, I guess now with Takei getting a little bit better with the RNG, now he's a little bit further ahead. But yeah, this race still has a lot of room to turn around, and Takei also still has to do a death warp here with the guard, which could have gone very ugly right there. As you saw, that could have ended very poorly. Looks like he's going to be okay here as long as he doesn't bump into the guard's backside.
Yeah, I think Sneak just had terrible RNG with the guards in the ballroom.
Yeah, absolutely. No, I mean, you're definitely right, because we saw it. Like, even when he wasn't getting double guards on both of the rooms, it always felt like there was one flashlight guard on the other side. I don't know if anybody else was looking to see if there was an exact count for how many guards he got, but I would not be surprised if it was somewhere in the range of like 5 to 6, maybe even a few more. But yeah, so with that being said, Sneak hasn't been playing horribly by any means. I think his movement has been really sick. What do you think is the next biggest opportunity for him to kind of close this gap in the episode?
That is a very good question. I'm just looking at the list of the jobs.
As we also see on the left side, Takei getting that bottle crash you were talking about.
I was just about to say about the battle crash, because that can be a little bit finicky also sometimes if you get the angle or the position of Sly a little bit wrong. But as we can see, Takei gets it nicely first try, so
Yeah,
no
Takei
problem there.
Takei making that look absolutely easy. Now we see here on the right side, Sneak also just taking some damage off the bridge to try and make sure he's ready for the Death Warp. Is there... What's the optimal way to take damage for that? Do you, like, take some damage from guards here and there along the way, or do most people just jump off the bridge right there?
I think
And yeah,
most
meanwhile...
people... Yeah,
Go
I
ahead.
think most people just jump off the bridge because there's a small window when you are falling when you get the iframes off. So you don't get the unfortunate event that you're still having iframes when a guard hits you. So you basically waste time from the hit.
It's all good. And meanwhile, Yaki, I don't know if you saw on the left, but that was kind of what I was referring to on the left. Was it almost looked like Takei didn't, once again, he didn't have to move? Like, I thought he just got over to the job, but I could have easily been looking over at Sneak's screen. But whatever, it's all right there. Sneak, meanwhile, finishing up that job, doing a relatively good job. I think both runners have been doing very well so far. Once again, if not for some unfortunate RNG for Sneak in the very beginning of this episode, this would still be like absolutely neck and neck, and it's still very close. So I think the Lumberjacks, if we're going to have to see them pull this back in episode 4, or excuse me, in Sly 4, episode 2, they're going to need a little bit more luck on their side. They're going to need some things to go wrong on the side of the Peacocks. But so far, so far it's still a very competitive race, far from over.
That is true, that is true. And there is still some quite difficult jobs left in this Sly 2 episode 2 run. Oh, Takai having some difficulty doing the last bridge high jump to the balcony, and he gets it.
Yeah, it's thankfully not a job fail, alerting the guards. Is that right there? Gets it second try. I don't think Sneak, by the way, I do not think attempted the bottle crash, so he is going to run over on foot to steal a tuxedo and try to attempt that this way, as I think, yeah. Takei, we kind of just rushed through this job. This is how this is going to go, folks, is that a lot of jobs in Sly 2, if you're not familiar with it, just go by really fast in comparison to a lot of Sly 3 and even Sly 4 jobs. I think the average job length for a Sly 2 job is like maybe 3 minutes, more like 2.5. So didn't really get a chance to talk about Steal a Tuxedo on his end. Did you have anything you wanted to really say about this job in particular, Yaki?
Well, nothing too much. It's a pretty simple episode as long as you remember where the different parts of the tuxedo are, because they are scripted and they are always at the same places. So if you have your route correct, you know where the guards are, you shouldn't have too much trouble with this job.
And not too much of this one. We will, however, see a little bit of a cutscene skip here, and I believe Takei got it. There's a small cutscene skip he can do. Yep, he does get it.
Yeah. So basically, Bentley is supposed to be talking right now to Murray how to operate the gun, but since Murray just pressed a circle right next to the what is that called? Kind of a lever? Lever?
Yeah, lever, lever, yeah, you got it.
Tomato. And so the animation of pulling up the lever goes over the Bentley's dialogue. And this is actually a pretty hard job, especially for me, because as a child I never got it first try. And because you have to also be hitting the chopper as fast as possible, but also trying to avoid the rockets hitting you. So you have to adjust when to hit the rockets and when to hit the chopper.
Yeah, Takei definitely got a little bit low on health there, so taking some safety precautions, making sure he destroys some missiles in order to make sure he's staying alive, probably for the best there. And he's going to try his hand once again at this bottle crash to go to the next mission. Having a little bit more trouble this time, not the first try zip that we saw earlier when he was going to steal a tuxedo. Yeah, quite honestly, having a lot of trouble here. Sneak is going to finish up this job and probably head over to dominate the dance floor. Takei, however, does finally get the bottle crash. But yeah, once again, that is the kind of thing that the Lumberjacks may need at this point to go wrong for the Peacocks, but go right for them. As Sneak now technically is like it feels weird to say he's a full job behind because again, like in Sly 2, the jobs are just a lot shorter. Like if we were saying he's a full job behind in Sly 4, that could be a huge difference of like minutes. Whereas here, I still don't feel like it's terrible. As we see Sneak, I believe, also get the cutscene skip with Murray. Very nicely done.
That is true. And also, one point about being a full job ahead. Battle of the Chopper is a really fast job. So that's why you get the impression, probably.
Is this job even a minute long on average?
The gold split on slygoals.com actually says it is 1 minute and 1 second.
Oh, come on. Yeah. That's a phenomenal comm gold, but yeah, not the. This isn't Sly 1 here. We don't have half the game splits that are like 40 seconds long. That's not throwing shade at Sly 1 runners, by the way, but you get what I'm saying. Sly 1, but like I said, yeah, that's just a reflection of kind of how some things go in Sly 2, is that you've got a few jobs that'll definitely test your skills. This one included, despite it being very, very short. This one is still a very hard job. There's a lot you have to watch out for, like managing your heat gauge at the bottom for the turret and just making sure you've lined up your shots okay and not trying to die all at the same time. It's a lot harder than, say, the turret section in 2-3, which we've seen a few people do. But Sneak, thankfully, makes it look easy, gets through it without too much issue, and is keeping this a close race.
Now let's see if Sneak tries the bottle glitch second time. I'd assume he doesn't. Yeah, he doesn't do it. He just runs to the palace, as you can see right now. It's quite a long way.
It's a little bit of a walk.
I think Takei lost a little bit of time just because he had to try that bottle crash glitch quite a many times. But yeah, that's just the way the cookie crumbles sometimes.
It's the way it is, yeah. And unfortunately, not much time to be made up here with Dominate the Dance Floor. I feel like a cool job when we all were kids, and still is kind of funny to watch to this day, but in terms of the speedrun, yeah, unfortunately, not much to talk about here. Just don't step on the girls' feet. That's advice that can also translate to real life, so keep that in mind. But not only will it bring you joy and will do better things for your life, but it'll also get you better speedrun times. So yeah, just press buttons at the right time and don't step on the girls' feet. Stuff should be okay.
Yeah, and one point I want to say that you should point out or you should pay attention to is look at Sly's cool belt buckle during this dance. I want a belt buckle like that. Sly Gold's merch team. If you happen to get a Sly Cooper belt buckle, I'm gonna buy it instantly.
After we get the merch done for all of the ACES competition teams, then we will get the merch. Get the merch for the awesome belt buckle. Like, I'm just gonna see Jackie at some like Western themed party, and like he's gonna have this full cowboy attire, and instead of having like one of those Western belt buckles, he's gonna have this huge Sly Cooper mask belt buckle. It's gonna look so sick. Yeah, that'd be cool, I imagine.
Yeah, unfortunately, we had a summer party at our workplace last year that had a Western theme. Could have been a cool addition to my outfit, but unfortunately, it was last year.
Funny enough, I actually had a similar kind of thing. I had a Western party with a organization, a club that I was a part of in my last year of school. It was like one of the last things I did at university, actually. And it was very unique. A lot of people actually really did dress the part. We had like cowboy hats, the buckles, the boots. Everything was pretty cool. The one thing that stood out was that we didn't really play a whole lot of like Western music. It was mostly just like pop stuff, which kind of didn't fit the mood, but then again, if you have heard country music today, I wouldn't blame you for not playing it anywhere. But anyways, I'm not here to talk about that. We're here to talk about the game as we move on to yet another awesome short job in... I don't even remember what this job is called either. I'm terrible with remembering this game. RC bombing run. What is there to say about this job as far as tracking the truck and, getting decent times on it, if
You
anything?
just have to hope that the truck doesn't go to the bottom of the map, because that's the slowest part, and then just know how much time the bombs take to drop and adjust your flight that way.
Yeah, definitely a job that could still take a little bit of practice with mastering the RC chopper controls. It's not super slippery, but it can kind of throw you off if you're new to it, and missiles, while they don't do a whole lot of damage, can also, gotta be careful. Make sure you just don't die, don't get too reckless, and you should be okay. Knocking on wood, it looks like Takei is going to have a decent run here. It looks like this car isn't going anywhere close to the bottom of the map, and it does not. He destroys it with relative ease. As he finishes that up, and as Sneak is done with the dance, he's going to start running to that job. And now we are going to see Takei move on to two of the more interesting jobs in the episode. And I believe the next we are going to is Elephant Rampage, a somewhat notorious job for the elephant's behavior and the interactions that you can have with it. So, what's the potential for a swing on this job, or is there more consistency to this than I believe?
If you get everything that you are supposed to do, all the jumps and all the attacks, there shouldn't be too much trouble. But sometimes things don't go your way, and you can lose a lot of time, especially if you don't know where the other elephant is at specific points of the game, if you're not on your correct route, or where is the best place to jump back onto the elephant if you're missing some of your tricks. But yeah, as I said, if you're on your route, you have everything under control, then neither of these runners shouldn't have too much trouble with it.
All right, yeah, like I said, both these runners, all things considered, I know Sneak hasn't been taking advantage of the bottle crashes, but despite that, both runners having a very good run. Again, Sneak, the only unfortunate downside was that his RNG in Recon the Ballroom was very unfortunate, but that is something that is well out of his control. We will have to see, though, like you said, if everything goes a runner's way, which it's not appearing to go Takei's way right now, it shouldn't give too much of an issue. But once again, that's a big if, and when you're under some pressure, that can be a lot easier said than done. So we'll have to see if Takei can close out these elephants. Looks like he's having a little bit of trouble right now with this
He's
one.
having a little bit of trouble, but nothing too major yet. A little bit behind his optimal route, probably, but yeah, that was unfortunate, the guard destroying the barrel, but gladly there's the fruit sack to help out. And now does he know where the second elephant is? Yeah, he knows. And actually the second elephant is quite a good position, so he can jump straight onto it from the bridge.
There you go. We saw Sneak on the right side, missing a couple of bombs, trying to clean up that truck, but still doing relatively okay. Now on his way to this. Yeah, like you said, Takei not having anything terrible yet, as you mentioned. The only thing that's really catastrophic about this job is if you die, because there's no checkpoints or anything, then you have to get all 6 gems again. You have to start from 0, which can be really unfortunate, but with 2 hit points left, knock on wood, it doesn't look like he's going to have any chance of dying right here, and he gets the last gem.
Yeah, that was pretty clean. Little mishaps, but nothing too major.
As Takei expresses his dismay for this job in the chat in the bottom left. So clearly we know how he feels about it, but hey, for what it's worth, did a good job on that, fell off the elephant a few times, but still nothing too major, and he's doing a good job for his team right now. As we move on to one of the last jobs in the episode already, that's being
Boardroom Brawl.
Boardroom Brawl, there we go. Yeah, I know this game. I've been playing it since childhood. And meanwhile, we do have one little cutscene skip here that Takei nails second try. Very good job. That will save a little bit of time. It'll be interesting to see if Sneak ends up going for that, but that will definitely keep the Peacocks in a good position, setting up for Augie to take the reins in Cotton Mountain Bluff. Also see him just doing a very phenomenal table clip there to get the passcode. So what is there to be said about the section upstairs with the Murray fight?
Well, in episode runs, nothing too major since you are not even trying to collect any coins. The lengths of the different stages are scripted. There's a scripted amount of seconds that Bentley takes to hack the computers. I can't remember the specific amounts out of my head, obviously. But yeah, if you want to optimize it perfectly, you have to adjust the last part so that you can kill the guards as soon as possible when the spawning of the guards end. That is quite literally the only optimization you can do.
Sneak on the right side there having a little bit of jank interaction with the elephant, being off the elephant and yet still getting launched as if he was on top of it. Yeah, no, Boardroom Brawl, unless a very unfortunate Gandhi-esque moment happens and he gets glitched behind an invisible wall that he can't get around. Hopefully we're not going to see anything too detrimental here, especially in episode runs where you don't have to grind coins. I feel like this job isn't terribly dangerous. You can mostly just hang around Bentley, kind of play it on the safer side, and, you know, Murray having all the strength and all the power. Guards are pretty much just a minor annoyance. Pardon me if that came through the mic. Oh, the Sneak on the right side there, meanwhile, having a little bit of trouble getting on top of this elephant, being a little bit finicky. This is the kind of stuff that, while not absolutely detrimental, can still be annoying about this job, but Sneak finishes it up, and he's going to be heading over to Boardroom Brawl as well. Still on a decent pace, in spite of the RNG not going his way at the start.
I usually like to do this job so that I would just hit the guards off the ledge with Murray and not have to bother with multiple hits.
Which I think we definitely saw Takei taking advantage of there. We saw with some of the little antelopes. Are those antelopes? They look like antelopes. Maybe there's some other animal that the name is escaping me.
Antelopes are goats? I think they have little goatees, so they're supposed to be goats.
Goats? Okay. Pardon me then, yeah. I guess I haven't thought about what animal that guy would be terribly much in my past. But yeah, little goats, we definitely see Sly even over there with some good luck on Takei's part, hitting some guys off the ledge. Saw him taking advantage of that earlier. And then after a while, of course, we see mostly just these little monkey dudes with the fire. They can be a little bit more problematic, especially if you're grinding coins in full game during this job. And over on the right, yeah, as I was saying, we do see Sneak actually watching this cutscene in full, so while I'm not blaming him or anything, of course, because he's, again, like, he's held back on a couple of strats that I'm not sure if he knows how to do or if he's just playing it safe. Even without some of these precautions, though, Sneak has still played a great episode. I think he's setting up his team to be in a good spot come Cottonmouth Bluff. We'll just have to see how much of an impact that decision to not go for that has on his team's future success.
Yeah, so at the Takei stream, we also saw that he manipulated all the guards to be close to Bentley, so he could just hit them off the ledge as soon as Bentley did the voice line, where he knows that any more guards won't spawn. So that was the thing I was talking about, that you have to manipulate the guards so that you can kill them as fast as possible. Unfortunately, one of the guards jumped on the platform that Murray was on. He wasn't aggroing on Bentley, but that didn't lose too many seconds, so who cares?
All right. So as we go to operation here, I regret to inform you guys that a terrible thought just crossed my mind. So I'm really going to regret saying this because I would just cry if this happened to either of our runners at this point. Because this race is still very close. Don't get me wrong. Even with Sly 4 being the last episode, there's still a lot of room for error, especially with the new skips. Has anybody sound locked in Sly 2 or 3 so far in this tournament?
I don't know if my lock while loading up the game or restarting the game counts as sound lock. Someone was talking about that it was a sound lock, but it was a sound lock or a hard lock for me.
TK here also setting up for this big skip. Yeah, once again, I sincerely hope that doesn't happen to either of our runners. That would just be very unfortunate if it did, as we see TK hit the trigger bomb and absolutely nail a cutscene skip. Good job by him as he goes on to the under the bridge section to start Operation Hippo Drop. And yeah, Nave can confirm that you apparently at one point did sound lock, which led into a hard lock. I'm not. Remind me of what episode that was in, or what round that was in,
Uh,
if you remember.
that was last round on the episode of 3-5. I was resetting the game, I believe after X marks the spot mission, and during the reset I got a sound lock while the game was trying to start. So I had
That's
to
great.
obviously restart the console, which took about a minute extra. I was very sad.
I would imagine that's very sad. Yeah, Yaki, I mean, we'll talk about this since, again, we have another dance section coming up, but I just wanted to take this time to say you did, for what it's worth, you with the England Knights, you played some very, very good races. I think you had to play some very tough competition. Like, you had to play Nudie and you had to play some other people who were very skilled at the game. And also, like, just having that, especially when the race was decently close up to that point, there was room for error on both parties. It's just unfortunate. You don't want to see anything like that happen in a race like this that can just unfairly sway the competition. But yeah, I definitely feel like your group was very well put together. And I feel like you could say that for a lot of the teams, you know? Like, looking at the roster composition we have for both of these groups, it's hard to believe that both of these teams are 0-2, you know? Because Jake, once again, he's been through a lot of the earlier games. He's absolutely rocked some of these games, gotten some amazing times, some world records at some point. Augie, the same thing. Avatar, the same thing. Takei, very skilled runner. Sneak, once again, I can't say I knew him much before this time, but I will give him credit. He has played a very good episode so far this race, and he had played some good episodes in the past as well. So it's just unfortunate to see that some people do have to stay away from the playoffs, and it's hard to see that when, especially, there's so many good runners together in one spot that you feel this group is awesome, this group can really go far, and stuff just doesn't work out that time.
Yeah, that's true, and the groups or the teams are really I don't know how could these teams be so evenly matched, even though it's just a straight up draft. But hats off for the captains for drafting so well, because this really I couldn't believe that we are having such tight races.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Hats off to the captains for drafting so incredibly well, and hats off to all of the moderation team for making this possible. I was talking to a handful of them before we started the festivities today, and just all of the work they put in, from the logos to the team composition to the draft, making this whole system work. It's been a phenomenal job by the Sly Gold's moderation team, and it's great to see them continue to make great stuff like this, especially the ACES format, because this, unlike something with, you know, like an optimal loot tournament where it's kind of the same thing, this is something that I feel like we could really reuse year after year, and I'm really excited to see if we continue to do similar events like this in the future with new teams, new captains. It'd be a very cool thing to see for sure, as we see Sneak, unfortunately, on the right side, missing the cutscene skip on the start of Operation, which is a rough break for him, but of course, still far from over. But yeah, what I was saying before, to cut that short, hands off to the moderation team and hands off to everybody, my co-commentator included, for being a great part of all this, and I hope that it continues to be fun and competitive for the rest of the tournament.
Yeah, especially watching the other matchups has been really entertaining.
Tell me about it, dude. Just like going through all the highlights and seeing how close some of these races got. Like I said, it's hard to believe that some people still have to lose. It's hard to believe that some outcomes have happened the way they were. And in a lot of cases with races, it's one or two tricks the other way and things are completely different. There's some big swings and runs and some people getting unfortunate breaks. But yeah, I definitely, personally, I would love to see this format redone in the future. But for the time being, I'm happy that we have it now, especially. I'm happy that all the commentators and runners have gotten to do what they do. And I'm happy that in the wings, we have Aguirrino and Slink getting ready to rock for what is probably going to be the part of the run that I'm the most well educated on. That is going to be Sly 4 Episode 2. For those of you who know me, I am prominently a Sly 4 runner. I've been trying to expand my horizons, but I love Sly 4. I think it's a very underrated speedrun, and a lot of it is where you actually get to just play the game, but very fast, and skip a lot of the cutscenes by default. So I'll be able to commentate a good deal on that, and I will, be looking forward to that. Yaki, I know you said you are less familiar with Sly 4, but have you ever tried your hand running in it? How do you feel about the game overall speedrun?
I haven't tried running it, I have to confess. For some reason, I just don't like the different kind of physics or the different kind of movement that it has compared to Sly 2 or Sly 3. And also, I despise that the binocular controls are inverted. That is like
Yeah.
the most terrible thing ever, especially for me.
So I'm not gonna lie, like I hadn't had to deal with the problem. As we see here, first of all, before I get to that, as we see Takei, GG's to him as he gets in the van with the Clockwork Wings and finishes up a phenomenal episode 2, and that is gonna send Augie off to the races in Cottonmouth Bluff as we get started with 4-2, the third and final leg of the race as the Paris Peacocks try to close the deal. Sneak not too far behind him, finishing up the dance, and is going to give Slink, a very good Sly 4 runner, a decent chance to catch up in spite of the skill with the game, as we see Augie running into a fence there, unfortunately forgetting the movement. And Augie also still playing in German, which makes me question if he is doing the slight skip that makes Spanish a little bit faster. For those of you who are not aware, there was a recent development in Sly 4. There was a new skip that was found in the second job of this episode. That, of course, being Jailhouse Blues. See, this game I know the job names, so hopefully won't mess that up too much. That actually just made Spanish slightly faster, but the fact that Augie is playing in German, which used to be the fastest language for the job, makes me to believe that either he is just not aware of the language difference, or perhaps he is not entirely comfortable with going with the skip. Whatever it is, we will see. But either way, we have seen in previous runs when Slink played Beaver in 4-2, Slink is perfectly willing to play in Spanish and go for the new skips. So yeah, folks, hold on to your hats. Like, I know we've got a bit of a difference here, but like I said, got some very skilled runners here, and this is going to be very interesting coming down to the wire.
Yeah, this just comes down to execution. How well Augie can execute the missions and the small skips and small optimizations that we have found during recent times and not that recent times. I know some Sly 4, but not the little finicky stuffs.
Perfectly fine. That's why I said, like, I know before the match I was literally so excited to, for those of you in chat, before the match got started, I was told I was going to be commentating with Yaki, and I really did think we would be a phenomenal pairing, because like I said, I'm a little more experienced with a game that you haven't played, and you're a lot more experienced in games that I have only dabbled with and haven't played a whole lot, so this is why we, have each other. I think it's a great part like this. But what I was about to say, what were we talking about before Takei finished? Like, what was I about to talk about? Do you remember?
We were talking about the language differences and the small. How many seconds did it save the language difference? The one trick. I don't know.
So I'm Remo's in chat, so he can answer that question exactly because he's very knowledgeable in this.
I think he already answered it, but I missed the amount of seconds it actually saves.
Did he say 0.3 seconds? I think I should go back up. I just saw this message like 2 seconds ago. Yeah, 0.3 seconds. So that's Sly 4 in a nutshell. Not extremely crucial that Augie has that. I think he's still perfectly capable of cashing in a good episode 2 run without the difference in Spanish. But like I said, Slink, for somebody who's so experienced in this game and is willing to pull out all the stops, that could end up mattering, if by the smallest possible margin. But we'll have to see, ladies and gentlemen. It's for playoffs, and I'm sure at this point Slink is definitely willing to go all out. And I would know, because I know the guy. Augie, meanwhile, we do see having a little bit of a struggle with the movement, getting up the pole. He's able to clean that up and move on to the banner. Meanwhile, on the right side, Sneak, without having much issue left with the guards, is going to run right ahead and finish this up. I would begin talking about the language differences as we did, but first things first. Sneak, GG's to you. Phenomenal episode 2 run, my good man. Much better than I could have cashed in myself. And now we have the final legs on both screens. Augie being a job ahead is a huge difference, but like I said before, folks, Slink still very capable of closing this down. So, one thing I will ask real quick is, can we get an exact check on the time difference? Because this is what I was talking about. Now we're in Sly 4, and now that Slink is starting Photo Op and Augie is starting Jailhouse Blues, the job afterwards, now this feels like a little bit bigger of a gap. But like I said, if you are not entirely well versed in Sly 4, if the skill is a little bit lacking or if it's not there one day, this is not to throw Augie under the bus, by the way, because he has also cashed in a lot of phenomenal Sly 4 runs. He was teaching me when I started running this game. He's a great time. But yeah, he's it's just going to be interesting to see if Slink's updated strats and if his desire to pull it back for his team to keep it in the playoffs are going to be enough, or if Augie's equally passionate desire is going to help the team carry it through and close it out. Also, I'm sorry if I said photo op instead of under arrest. Yeah, after I just said I wouldn't mess up any more job names. The hubris chat. I'm sorry, but yeah, I've also episode 1 is my favorite episode, so I mentioned photo op. But yeah, so over here though we do see Slink getting a good start to the job under arrest. Got it right that time. And we have a small outdoor section here with Bentley just to start. Because Sly is locked up in jail, we have to have Bentley take some photos, which, you know, as cursed as it may be, is the way it goes. And just going to have to clean up a few of these pictures. This is the second one. It's the most annoying. You have to zoom in like 1,000,000% in order to get that. And the last one will be closer where he gets into the back wall. Yeah, so TK, I was asking earlier about your knowledge of Sly 4, even though you said you haven't run this game a whole lot. Are you familiar with like any of the jobs at all in episode 2?
I've seen a couple of runs and I've seen some streams about it. I don't know the technical stuff. I couldn't do it myself, but I'm a bit familiar with the skips and the movement and so on.
Mm-hmm.
I know when someone is doing something wrong. Let's say that.
All right. Well, hey, that's something, you know. If you can point out the discrepancies like that, then that's a big way to improve and get better at the game. And especially in Sly 4, that matters a lot with how movement heavy the game is and with how much of a perfectionist that you can really try to be if you let yourself get caught up in it. It's important, and you can definitely notice a lot of ticky-tack stuff like that. Take it from me. I have definitely spent ludicrous amounts of time trying to practice all of the little, you know, hiccups and nuances of all Sly 4's movement. And I'm still not, you know, like the dominant force. I don't hold all the calm golds or anything like that. There's always something new to learn. There's always like a few more frames to save here. And granted, you can say that, of course, about a lot of speedrun games, including Sly 2 and 3, which is why I have the utmost respect for you, Yaki, and a lot of the talented runners we have in this tournament and in this community who have absolutely burned those games to the ground, and I mean that as a compliment. You guys are amazing at that. But yeah, no, Sly 4, especially with the movement stuff, it's cool to understand really what you're doing wrong, to see it in action, and then the absolute reward of improving upon that and grinding it to an absolute T, I think is something that makes Sly 4 an absolute, like, wonderful speed game to learn. And so, especially once you get to that higher skill level, it's a completely different experience. So yeah, to put it bluntly, Yaki, I understand that you have played mainly the previous games, but if you haven't tried speedrunning this game, I encourage you to give it a shot. I think you might really like it, and I think with your skill level, you would definitely be up to the challenge.
If only I had time or motivation to do any more speedrunning than I'm currently doing. If only.
Yeah, I understand that fully. I, of course, had to, as we see Augie here also kind of missing up a small skip here. You have to have that block pushed in order for that to work with the barrel jump, but yeah, I definitely understand that too. Coming home from school, I was questioning my ability to continue to speedrun and continue to be a part of this community for a long time because I unfortunately had some family matters I had to deal with, and you know, time is largely should be spent with those you love, and I also don't have a job right now and coming out of school, I really want to get on those, blah blah blah. But yeah, I think if you are able to find the time for it, and if you're able to really interact with the people around you that are making this all fun and making this all rewarding to begin with, it can be very rewarding. And I understand for everybody here that everybody's had some struggles with finding the time to do it and finding the motivation to do it, which is why I really cherish the fact that we have the time here today to kind of all just appreciate, you know, an 11-year-old's game and talk about how we can talk about going faster in it and just execute. So yeah, I think it's wonderful, and I'm happy to be here, happy to have the time, and I hope that all of you, Yaki included, and everybody in chat, hopefully you find the time to continue to be a part of it because this community is really awesome, and I don't expect that to change anytime soon. So,
I do agree.
yes. Anyways, though, I feel like I don't want to call it a soap opera because I meant all that. Obviously, if I called it a soap opera, you know, wouldn't mean it. But yeah, back to the game though, instead of getting super emotional on the concept. Augie, besides the little skip there, looks like he's having a little bit of cramps in the muscle memory. Looks like he's not entirely familiar with, or not entirely remembering where to skip certain cutscenes, where to change in and out of costumes. Also, just almost made a crucial mistake there. If he had actually hit that block there, that would have been pretty slow. He would have had to take the time to push that block back. Looks like he's cleaning up this puzzle a little better here. And now moving on to this point, once Augie gets through this door, we are going to see the first big skip of this episode. And this is something we commonly refer to as pipe jump. You'll see it as soon as we get through this room. Augie may also do a binocular comp cancel right here to save a few seconds. He doesn't. On the left side, you're going to try and jump to a pipe to try and get around to a button. That button right there is the end of the puzzle. We'll see if Augie gets it. Going to have a little bit of trouble to start off. The space you can land on the pipe is pretty small, and then you also have to jump on the outsides of where you would normally push a block. See if Augie can get it this time. So he's there now. Now is also falling. Unfortunate break for Augie. So that's the second part of the trick. Once you get over there, you have to jump to the other side. And with some strats that Jake found, you are going to have to change into the jailbird costume, do a very specific line of rolling with the jailbird costume, and try and get over to the button and hit it. Augie, meanwhile, though, is having a little bit of trouble. Slink also not doing the skip that makes Spanish faster. Huh. Okay, so not taking full advantage of that, but still executing very well on the strats that were already there. Augie, unfortunately, is having a nightmarish time trying to get this skip. Is not doing very well. Slink absolutely licking his chops right now, and if you are the Nunavut Lumberjacks, this is exactly what you want to see. Augie, I was almost expecting him to go for the other strat.
Oh,
and just
no.
push the block. Yeah, this is looking rough for the Peacocks right now. Augie having a major struggle trying to get this skip. We'll see if he tries to break out any alternative strats or if he continues to try and push through and get it. You can technically land on the other pipe that's down there as a bit of a backup. Yeah. A little bit of poor lines for Augie, though, and Slink is only closing more ground. So you were just informed a minute ago that this gap was 3 minutes between the two runners. That gap has almost certainly shrunk now, but Augie does finally get through onto the button and gets the skip. You don't have to skip that cutscene, but Augie does. That's another minor mishap. I'm sorry. I'm a Sly 4 runner. I'm going to pick at that. Augie's phenomenal. I'm not trying to poke fun at anybody, but yeah. Anyways, though, Augie got the skip. Phenomenal. So he is going to be on his way out of this job now as Slink is going into the puzzle room. And if Slink can hit this trick first try, oh boy, this race has all of a sudden gotten a lot closer, especially if Slink... Oh my gosh, what am I saying? Perhaps the... No, it's not the Cooper for Hire strat that makes Spanish faster, but yeah. If Slink can hit the strat first try, and then if he gets a good Cooper for Hire, don't look now, folks, but this could very, very easily turn around in the blink of an eye. So Yaki, we were joking earlier, like, oh, Sly 4, it's just going to be the consistent run. There isn't going to be much of a big swing here. Don't look now, but there might just be a big swing yet if you look over to Slink and see if he can nail this.
That is true, that is true. And also one thing you may have missed is that Augie did not do the out-of-bounds skip that was found previously on this mission, and Slink did get that first try.
Slink, meanwhile, rolls over, gets it second try. Very fast. All right. He's got that cleaned up as Augie finishes Jailhouse Blues. And Slink is finishing up as we head on to Cooper for Hire, one of the not technical jobs in the episode, but definitely a long one, and also one that can give you a lot of trouble in multiple different places, from taking too much damage from guards, and even the hack at the very beginning of this episode, or at this job, excuse me, can cause a little bit of trouble if you're not careful. It's very easy, pardon me, to just take some big damage and to lose control of your health, die, lose time. But yeah. Oh, and yeah, this gap has gotten a lot smaller now, folks. I believe we are down to 115. So, all right, yeah, Augie, thankfully not pressing the start button. If you press start on the Chalk Talks, the little video cutscenes, as you see there, that is an instant, like, hard lock, or consistent hard lock, rather, I should say, and Augie would just have to reset the game. That would be an absolute, like, huge blow to the Paris Peacocks at this point. This part of the job, though, is just a little bit of an auto-scroller. Toothpick will stop 6 different times, and you can actually move it along a tiny bit faster. When Toothpick does his little animation like that, you can hit something or make noise and make Toothpick distracted, which is actually faster than his little animation where he kind of, like, spins his gun around and turns and looks. So that's just, like, a neat little way to speed it up. Augie looks like he forgot about it the first time or just didn't want to go for it, but is perfectly comfortable going for it now that he is over here. The important thing here is just not to get spotted, because if you get spotted by Toothpick in this section, you have to do this entire section over and over again, and there are not many other ways to speed up Toothpick besides what I already mentioned. So, yeah, we'll have to see. Hopefully, none of our runners have that issue. Hopefully, no big swing comes in the form of that as Augie tries to get to the end here.
Yeah, so basically, Bentley doing any noise overrides, or the noise gets Toothpick startled, and the being startled overrides the going around and swinging your pistol and so on animation.
Yes, you got it. So as you see right there, Augie just, like, made some noise by running, which, if this is a previous game, that might have already failed the job, but it counts as noise still, so instead of Toothpick completing his animation, he just does the little wah, huh? Like, what was that noise animation? That was a very peculiar way of describing it, but yeah, that animation, you see what I mean. Alright, so now Augie, as we hopefully watch Slink not fail this and not alert Toothpick any more than he needs to, we're going to go into a short section here where Murray is going to be shooting some scorpions. These spawns are entirely consistent, so if you know kind of how they all come out, this section isn't too taxing, and you don't even really have to use the TNT barrels aside from the last shot, which I like to use them for. You can if you want to, but they're not super necessary. They really just save a tiny bit of time for, like, 1 or 2 shots if you choose to use them. See if Augie actually does use one of these TNT barrels for time save, because there are situations where you can use a TNT barrel to kill 2 scorpions at once, which will, you know, save a little bit of time in that case. It's like alerting Toothpick.
Remember last time Augie was running this episode, he either didn't know or just chose not to utilize the TNT barrels.
Yeah, I'm not sure. I am not entirely sure. Yeah, so right there, he would have shot a TNT barrel that was closer to both entrances, and that would have been the time save. Slink, it looks like, is not going to alert Toothpick here. Looks like he's going to be A-okay. Augie, meanwhile, heading into the hack, the first hack of this episode, where we will immediately see one little skip having to do with the speeder code, and we'll see if Augie can hit it. You'll have to use the laser loop to try and get past this wall of dots, and he will not get it, unfortunately. If you move in a certain way and possibly use the laser, but I don't think you have to use it, you can actually just straight up dodge that red wall and not have to shoot any dots, which saves a lot of time. There's also a skip that was recently found by, I believe, Mapiofo at the end of this hack, where by dancing around the end firewall, where there's a huge section with a bunch of, like, bouncing shots, you can actually just skip the final wall, go straight to the end, and save like 20 seconds on the hack. So we'll have to see if either of the runners do that. Slink, meanwhile, on the right side, you can kind of see what I was talking about. Him shooting that TNT barrel and taking out 2 scorpions at once saves a little bit of time. Probably also going to see him move in the hack prematurely, which he does. Augie is going to approach this. Slink is going to attempt the skip. We'll see if he's able to hit it, get past this firewall. Very nicely done. Completely bypasses it, no laser required. As I mentioned, it just kind of helps. Augie getting stuck on a few of the laser cycles, meanwhile, which could be detrimental because your health is very important in this last section, especially for the shell code. You really don't want to try and take too much damage because these turrets fire very fast, and it's very easy to get overwhelmed and just die. Augie, meanwhile, is going to go for the skip, though, that Mapioto found. Looks like he's having a little bit of trouble with it. Trying to shove it. I don't think he's going to get it.
Oh, no.
He's alive, though. He is alive. I don't think he can attempt that again, though, unfortunately. He just does not have the health for it.
He just way too low on health.
Oh.
Oh, no. He got stuck between the laser and the red balls. Oh, no.
Yeah. That could have been very unfortunate for Augie. Like I said, dying there is a huge detriment. Now he's going to have to use the speeder code to try and bounce some shots around, take these guys out. And don't look now, folks, but Slink is coming up on this very same room that Augie is on right now. And just like that, for the Peacocks, what was once a 3-minute lead has suddenly evaporated in the blink of an eye. And Slink gets the skip! And the Nunavut Lumberjacks have taken the lead for the first time in this match since, I believe, 3-2 at the very beginning. Holy smokes, hold on to your hats, folks. This is where it gets fun. As Augie's catching right up.
Oh my god.
This is ACES, ladies and gentlemen. And that is why you get this man a Sly 4 episode. It's what he's most comfortable with. And when he's pulling out all the stops, believe me, he is pulling out all the stops. That is a huge boost for the Lumberjacks as they are now taking the lead by at least 10 seconds, if not more. That is a skip that saves around 20 if you nail it, which Slink did. And we'll see if he does some more advanced out-of-bounds strats in Cooper for Hire or if he chooses to play it safe.
We shall see if either of them, or maybe both of them, will try the out of bounds in this job.
Yeah, I don't believe we'll see it until the first section after the first set of rails. Slink, meanwhile, doesn't need to collect coins, but you have some time and you don't really have anything better to do, so we'll just grab a few and line up to make sure he gets these shots. Yeah, Tennessee Kid Cooper, I think Tennessee, like, not for his dialogue, but honestly for his gameplay, is a big reason why I like speedrunning this episode a lot. Tennessee's a very fun character. I thought casually his rail sprinting sections were just very fun, very fluid. And some of these jobs can be very annoying if you haven't practiced them a whole lot, and there's some quirky stuff with the crack shot that can definitely catch you off guard. But overall, I do think this episode is very fun. Yaki, have you even played this episode casually? Have you played Sapphire casually?
I have played the game 100% once. Not twice. Can't recall. I think I played the game during the Corona, so everything is kind of blurry.
Yeah. No, I hear that. Funny enough, Corona, I think, was when I actually started speedrunning this game. So some of my memories early with this game were a little bit blurry about how everything was. The game's also changed quite a bit in all the time that I've been running this game now, so it's really cool to see. Hundo especially, I remember my first Hundo playthrough of this game, and just how it compares to the speedrun now is absolutely ridiculous.
Yeah, I used to watch Ringmo routing the Hundo route, especially for Sly 4 episode 3 and episode 5. And I was just baffled how much you have to do during a short amount of time.
You know, that man is definitely deserves all the credit in the world for making that route as optimized as it is, helping to develop this game, helping to make a tutorial series and everything. He's helped me to really learn it and develop myself as a player, so thank you for that. Interesting development, by the way. Slink is opted to not go for the out of bounds, whereas Augie, it looks like, if I'm not mistaken, he might, without killing the coyote, mind you, which is a little interesting.
Oh.
And unfortunately gets shot there. Bit of a loss for Augie, now he's going to opt to move on and not try the out of bounds. So Slink's decision to hold off from doing it doesn't even bite him too much, as he is cruising pretty alright throughout this job. Augie also not taking advantage of the aim mode. If you go into aim mode and a guy shoots you, you actually won't receive knockback. Slink took advantage of that to continue to walk down the hallway. Augie, unfortunately, perhaps forgetting about that tech. But regardless, he's approaching the crack shot door and gets cucked again. I shouldn't use that word on stream, but he unfortunately got shot, gets taken out of crack shot, and he's in a rough spot right now. As Slink is just absolutely tearing through this job and is on the last door. He'll be out of here in no time flat.
Oh no, Augie doesn't know that he can't shoot the locks from the bottom of the... Oh man.
No, yeah, it's got to be up there. Meanwhile, you're just hoping now, if you're the Peacocks, that Augie's not going to get shot in the back again. Does get the checkpoint, though. The door has been opened up. But he is now a full section behind Slink, who has just finished Cooper for hire. So, Slink not having to go for every amazing strat, but the skip in the hack pays off, and that is enough to give the Lumberjacks a sizable lead down the stretch. And now we will have to see if Augie is able to overcome this deficit that he has dug himself. Also, something to note is that for this section, he might restart checkpoint here, because he is very low on health. Opts not to. There's a good chance he might just get shot immediately by one of these guys and kills himself instead in the water. Very unfortunate death for Augie there, but he does restore his health. Probably doesn't lose too much time to restarting checkpoint anyways. So as Augie is going to finish up here, hopefully not many more instances of him getting obstructed with the crack shot doors. Looks like he's not going to have too much issue here, knocking on wood. Blink, meanwhile, on the right side, we're going to see him move on to one of my personal least favorite jobs in the run, and that's a skill issue. I suck at this job, I will fully admit that, but this is a job that if you try and do a lot of really hard strats can be very, very annoying. This is Saloon Bug, and there's a lot that can go wrong here, from alerting guards to a small Binocucom cutscene skip that can lose 6 seconds if you don't get it, I believe it is. And I don't know if we're going to see Slink do it, but there is also an advanced strat that involves you jumping off of a chair to get to the top section where you need to go to advance the mission much earlier. As we see Augie finish up Cooper for hire, he's going to be moving on to Saloon Bug. Still a close race, still not a absolutely massive gap, and we still have a long way to go. Should Slink be attempting the new strategies that are present in Jailbreak with Tennessee in the second section, that could very easily be another big swing. There's also big swings in the form of unfortunate bomb RNG in the race section of Grand Key Larceny, which is the penultimate job of the episode. So don't get me wrong, folks, there is still a long way to go. Slink is not out of the woods yet. And Augie has clearly demonstrated that he is willing to go for more advanced strats like the hack skip. Just because one didn't work out for him doesn't mean that the rest of them are guaranteed to fail. So don't get too comfortable over there if you're a Lumberjacks fan. We still got a long way to go.
Anything can happen, especially in Slide 4.
And it can, yeah. In Slide 4 especially, a lot can definitely happen. As we see Slink finishing up a short little sarsaparilla game here, there's a few optimizations you can do to hit the guys before they eventually pop up, but not too much to talk about on that. Slink does almost go for the chair jump. It doesn't land on the chair, unfortunately. He's just going to take the other strategy where you paraclimb, which is where you use the paraglider to sort of glide up an object, get through the door, and he also gets the Binocucom cutscene cancel. If you pull up the Binocucom right as you go into a loading zone, you can overlap it, sort of, with certain cutscenes and make it so you can move a little bit earlier. That one in particular saves around 6 seconds because you are much closer to the drop-off from that hallway than you otherwise would be. Slink having a pretty good Saloon Bug, if I do say so myself. Of course, not having the chair jump kind of stinks, but that is a very hard trick. I do not blame him at all. Of course, he still has a very good lead here, as long as he does not die in the vents. This part of the mission isn't super difficult. Like, as long as you're patient, there's no real threat of dying, but the fans are instant kill. So if you're reckless and you just try and like blow past one, pardon the pun, before you are ready, then that can instantly kill you and you'll have to do the whole hack again. So just got to be careful, especially if you're in a race setting, which look where we are. Sling, meanwhile, is past all the fans, having no trouble with that. He's going to finish up Saloon Bug just fine, and that is a perfectly fine split. Good job on that. And we will see now if Augie, with his strategies, is going to attempt the chair jump. Again, can save a decent amount of time should he hit it first try, provided he doesn't alert the guards or try and fail the job. You can also break those bottles on the floor. Looks like he's not going to go for it. He's just going to take the safe route, but he did break a little flower there, the cactus, and that could have been very bad. He could have almost gotten alerted by the guards, but so far so good. Breaks the object. Will he get the Binocucom cutscene cancel? Misses it there. And he's trying to inch for it
He's
here.
too early, and he gets it.
He gets it though. Yeah. That is a lot easier to mess up than you think, especially if you don't get it the first time. It's very easy to kind of doubt yourself.
Just about broke even with that,
I think you're probably right, yeah. I think not losing any time, though, is big here, especially with this little bit of a gap. It's very important. And so now Slink is going to move on to Blind Date, which is where we're going to get our introduction to Carmelita in the overall game and the episode, if you look at it like that. Not too much to talk about with this job. It's largely an auto-scroller. There is a lot of movement tech you can take advantage of to make it go slightly faster. Like, most people will often get like a 609 as like an average, whereas the community gold by Mr. Avatar, I believe, is 6 minutes flat. So definitely some things you can take advantage of, but otherwise not a whole lot to talk about. As long as you don't die, because deaths in this job can take a handful of seconds and can be very detrimental. But after Blind Date is where we get to Jailbreak, and that is where a lot of the new strategies will be implemented. And that is where we will see if Slink is going to really start to pull away here, or if Augie is going to have a chance to really close this gap even more.
Actually, the com goal of Blind Date is 5:59 by Remo.
Wow. Remo, you got a sub-6 Blind Date. It's officially been broken. I'm sorry. Well, that goes to show, like, the period of time I've been away from the game for. I apologize for that. I forgot that Remo has uploaded a lot of com golds, especially for Slime 4 as of late, and so forgive me for not knowing that. It used to be 6 minutes, but yeah. Thank you, Yaki. Appreciate it. Yeah. That's... I have the Sly Golds page open. I really should have been able... I guess I should switch over there now, considering we're on Sly 4.
I have to have it open because I can never remember the names of the jobs.
I definitely... The only reason I remember a lot of these job names, of course, is because I've played this game much more than I have a lot of the other Sly games for speedrunning purposes. It's possible that I will memorize some more job names in the future, but of course. Yaki, do you remember a large part of, like, the jobs in the games you've run, or do you feel like it's still kind of fuzzy?
The names are quite difficult since, obviously, as a kid, I played the game in Finnish, the games in Finnish.
That's right.
And then, when I started speedrunning, I think I ran them in English, because that's not that difficult, because I can still understand what is going on. And then when I started playing in Dutch/Norwegian for Sly 3, and English for Sly 2, I started to just not pay attention and follow those. And also for splits, I have the names in Finnish, so I can remember what they are in the languages.
Yeah, that's definitely fair. I feel like if I was in your shoes, if I like started out with a different language as my first language as a kid, and I like went to English, I definitely would have a little bit more of a, like, you know, because it's not always just a one-to-one translation, as some people might think. Obviously, there's like a bunch of different words and phrases they use to alter up job names. I remember viewing a lot of the Sly 4 episode 1 jobs in Spanish one day, just like looking them up to see what they mean. And, you know, it's interesting to see the different kinds of words and phrases they use to mix things up. Not bad, of course. Again, I'm very happy to see that you're bilingual. I think it's a skill that a lot of people wish they could have. And Finnish as well. It's just a very unique, it's a good language. If I could snap my fingers and learn it, I would, but it's never that easy, is it?
Yep.
Yeah.
There's a lot of technical stuff.
You could say the same about English, though, to be fair. Like, English, I feel like... How did you feel about... Because you guys have to learn... Do you guys have to learn English as, like, when you're kids in Finland?
Yeah, we usually we start learning English from 3rd grade, but since for some reason our municipality had some extra money, so I started learning English from 2nd grade. And also, we had Disney Channel as I was a kid, so I could hear English quite a lot. So I learned it that way.
You know, honestly, I bet that probably helps a lot. I actually saw something one time that was kind of talking about one of the better ways to learn a language is by, like, if you're trying to actively learn a language and you're viewing things in another language. Slink! Oh no! That's okay, that's not the worst death you could possibly take, but that is still a little unfortunate for him. If that had happened before he had finished destroying the barrier, that would have been a lot worse, but still, only like, probably like 5-10 seconds of time lost there. I thought he was going to get knocked off before he destroyed the barriers. That would have been bad, but thankfully not too bad. Still giving Augie a little bit of leeway, though, as we head to one of the better jobs. As I was saying, though...
Like I said, anything can happen.
Yes! You were absolutely right. Like I said, we have 3 jobs to go. All 3 of them can have a lot of big swings and runs, and there is... Yeah. Oh, this is an auto-scroller. Do not let this fool you, folks. We still do have a long way to go, and there are new strats to be found in Jailbreak. We will talk about those when we get to them. I'm sure some of you have already seen what we were talking about in previous runs that Beaver and Slink have had to attempt in 4-2, as well as other runners like Augie and Remo when they had to do this. And Remo, I believe, he even talked a little bit about the new Jailbreak skips, where if you fall down during them, you can lose a lot of time. Like, if you fall down once or twice, you can lose, like, upwards of half a minute. It can get pretty bad, which, hey, right now, I think the gap is still around, like, a minute and a half, possibly more, like 2 minutes. That can still be huge, and then all it takes is one more bad bomb in the Racing Grand Prix Larceny or some other unfortunate event. And to beat a dead horse, like Yaki said, anything can happen. We'll have to see. Yes, Yaki, as I was saying, I think I saw one other time that if you're learning English at the same time and you're also just seeing a lot of video in English with English subtitles, like maybe with Finnish subtitles, but even still, like if you see some of that stuff in English, like and just see the events that are going on, your brain as a kid especially can kind of just incur some of what's happening. Not all of it, of course, but it helps to make some of those connections like, okay, they're saying this when a certain event is going on, then maybe that word relates to this subject and so on and so forth. Like if somebody says a word you don't understand, but they're eating at a dinner table, like maybe you can connect a certain word to like a fork or a plate. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that makes some sense. And for me, the turning point in learning a new language is that when you start thinking in that language, you don't have to all the time translate what you are trying to say or what you hear. So, yeah, I don't know how to explain that any better, but at the moment, for example, I'm thinking what I'm going to say in English. I'm not gonna think the words that I'm saying in Finnish. Only when I don't remember what something is. I'm trying to figure out what the heck is this in English.
That's really healthy though. Honestly, I think that's a good reflection of how far you've come with learning the language, and I think it's still really cool that you can kind of think in both of them and kind of work those puzzles out. I think it'll probably help with a lot of challenges in life. So again, more power to you. It's really epic.
Yeah, and it's quite a lot of use for me, especially when I'm doing this engineering work. Most of the customers don't speak Finnish, so I have to write the reports and everything in English. So it's not big of a deal for me.
Yeah, we're also seeing some other people in chat kind of comment on that, like playing Pokemon in English as a kid and like learning English from YouTube and whatnot. Like I said, like maybe just watching random videos in another language, it's not going to make you fluent, but it could help. Could help you make connections.
It definitely helps.
Yes. So, fun conversation there. But to talk now about the game as we are going into the final stretch here of episode 2, we have now arrived at one of the most influential jobs in the run at this point, now with the new strats. This, ladies and gentlemen, is Jailbreak. So there's a multitude of different sections here. You kind of alternate the entire time between a on-rails shooting section with Carmelita, and a platforming section, pardon me, with Tennessee. And the Carmelita sections aren't terribly bad. You can speed them up a tiny bit if you shoot the guards optimally and kind of manage your health without letting the dynamite just completely tank your health. Other than that, though, there's not too much to worry about with the Carmelita sections. Just don't get blown up. If you want to play it safe, that's absolutely fine, understandable. The Tennessee sections are where things get really interesting. So we're going to see the first Tennessee section after Slink on the right side finishes clearing out these guards. He's going to do a little bit of a circle boost off of the boat over to one of the spire points, and he's basically going to be able to go through the platforming section backwards by attaching to a rope over and over again and hit the switch, which will allow him to skip the entire platforming section. And he will demonstrate for us, I should say, right here. That is normally where you would, yeah.
Yeah, he's basically going backwards.
Yeah, so you could see over there, nearly fell down. That would have been unfortunate. But yes, over there to the left, that would have been like where you would have shot some guards and done some other platforming, but didn't need to do it here. He's also probably going to do a little bit of circle boost to attach to one of the far spires and move on to the next one, the next Carmelita section, that is. As we see Augie begin this job as well. Still hot on the tail. Yes, so now the big swing is going to come up in the Tennessee section after this Carmelita one, where, as we've seen from Remo and Beaver and Augie and previous runners, there are new skips that I don't entirely know how to do myself, honestly. I have not tried my hand at these yet, but rather than doing some older strats where you can kind of just, you almost do it as intended, with the exception of skipping some platforming at the start thanks to some circle boosts and some like mysterious reflexes jumps and whatnot. You instead can kind of just hug your way around all the boxes and utilize some new tech in the form of jumping and spiral diving at the last minute. And that will allow you to get to some slightly higher ledges that will allow Slink to get over to that edge much quicker. As we see, he is going to go for it. Will he hit it? He's going to ledge grab. He's going to have to do one here. Very nicely done.
Really
That's
nicely
his first try, and that is huge for the Lumberjacks. Absolutely huge. Man, making it look so easy. But that is a very hard skip. Don't look now, but Slink is absolutely cruising with only 2 jobs to go. That's not very detrimental. He's going to respawn in the Carmelita section anyways. It's funny than anything that maybe loses like a second.
At some point when I saw that happen, that you fell into the water right next to the boat, I thought people are doing that intentionally, that it saves time. Then I heard that actually it loses.
Really? Is that?
I thought it saves time, because I saw at some point a lot of people doing that, probably not intentional, but yeah. Someone can probably correct me. Yeah, loses 3 seconds, as Remo says in the chat. But for some reason I saw people doing that. Probably not intentionally, as I said.
Yeah, I mean, like, it's kind of easy to do if you just cut your jump a little bit short. But yeah, if I guess maybe like some people, I don't blame you for thinking that either. Like, don't get me wrong, I probably would have at least experimented with that if I hadn't heard what some people had to say about that before, and I would have wanted to see that myself. Blink, meanwhile, on the right side, doing some careful movement to avoid the guards and also to make it so they don't shoot the TNT barrels and blow them up, is able to crack shot the door and move on pretty easily from this job. Augie, we will meanwhile see if he attempts the brand new skips on the left side as he is coming up to that section here. And I don't want to put pressure on the man, but he is really going to have to try and work for this right now. If he doesn't hit this, Slink is going to have to really mess up hard in the race and the operation. We'll see what strats he goes for. I think he's going to end up going for something a little bit older. He's going to go for this post, get up there. Having a little bit of trouble falling down, though. Yeah. This can be a little bit tricky if you have not practiced it extensively. Can be a little bit finicky to find out where to jump from.
Oh, so close.
Yeah. Having a little bit of trouble here. Not falling in the water, at least, which is something. Yeah, having a little bit of trouble here, Augie is, unfortunately.
Come on,
as Slink is gonna...
You can do it.
It's the post. Looks like he's jumping like a little bit sideways, which I think is really throwing him off. He just goes straight on. He's probably getting it. Oh, he had it. Oh, and he takes a bad landing. All right, taking his time with this. Should get that. Make sure you don't circle boost too hard. Don't fall down. And I would imagine, yeah, Augie's probably not going to go for the new strats. I would imagine he just goes for the casual stuff now. I say casual. This is the way we used to do it. Yeah. It's all right, though. Slink, meanwhile, going for some slight movement over there with a Thunder Flop to try and save a few seconds. Doesn't do it, unfortunately. But Augie should have no problems left clearing out this part and moving on to the final part of the job. So, as Augie finishes up Jailbreak on the left side, we're going to talk a little bit about Grand Key Larceny, which I don't like this job. I never have. This is one of the most, like, I don't want to say one of the most RNG dependent episodes, or one of the most RNG dependent jobs in the run, because, you know, duty calls exists, and getting stronger exists, and starving hippo exists, and all that stuff in episode 3 that everybody loves to play. But this part especially, this is actually probably one of the most consistent parts of it. If you know where to run to get the coyotes and just throw them into each other, this section can go by pretty fast, and the boss fight isn't too remarkable. The race after this section isn't terribly difficult. They give you a lot of time to get to different checkpoints to reset your timer. The problem is if you die, especially later on in the race, you can lose a lot of time. And that is a lot easier to do than some people think, because sometimes jackalopes can unexpectedly throw dynamite into the same place twice, which normally doesn't happen, but it can happen on a rare occasion. And the dynamite, for those of you who don't know, that is instant kill. So one hit from anything while you're on the ball in this race, and you are just straight up dead, and you have to do the entire race over again. And that will lose you upwards of a minute. So I think if the gap has still been the same this whole time, which it's probably a little bit bigger now for the Lumberjacks, considering Augie was missing that little post jump, I'd say like 2.5 minutes, but somebody can check me on that. Slink is going to have to give Augie a little bit of breathing room here, but we'll see how this goes. Once again, we're going to have to see if anything happens to Slink here in this race as Augie finishes up Jailbreak and begins Grand Key Larceny. And then as we get into Operation, things will really start to shape up, and we'll really start to see if this truly is a done deal or not.
Yeah, there's also some out-of-bounds movement during the operation, and we shall see if Slink does attempt to go for those. I believe those out-of-bounds movements aren't that hard than the other ones, but yeah, I don't know specifically because I have never tried them myself. But it seems to me that people are getting those more consistently.
Yeah, I think those were theorized way back in the day, but nobody ever actually attempted it. And now, more recently, those have actually been brought to life. And I think I definitely have seen a few people try those strats nowadays. You are definitely correct, Yaki. So I would not be surprised at all to see Slink go for that stuff. It does definitely save a lot of time. The problem, of course, is that if he doesn't hit it, he's probably going to end up wasting a bit there, as one would expect. Meanwhile, though, on Slink's end, no real dangerous dynamite spawns for the race, so he has cleared that, and that is huge for Slink. Now all he's got to do in Grand Key Larceny is shoot some targets with Carmelita. This is another RNG section that can, you know, lose you a handful of seconds or gain you a handful of seconds, depending on what the target spawns look like, and sometimes a lot of them can kind of stack one after the other. Other than that, we will look forward to the operation, which that being Gold Digger, and we will see how Slink is able to manage that going into the final stretches of this race. Now you can see here, like, sections like that where sometimes the targets you don't want to hit, those being the blue robber guys, can just kind of block your way. Slink, though, getting pretty decent RNG on that, finishing the mission before the 10 points Condor, I believe it is, finally came up. So good end to Grand Key Larceny for Slink. Good split as Augie begins the job. And now we will finally move on to the operation in the last stretch of the run. So do the Peacocks have anything left to try and pull something out? Or can Slink and the Lumberjacks close it out and keep their playoff hopes alive?
By the way, this is also a very interesting match for me because it will determine who will play against us in the last round of games.
Yeah, that's absolutely right. So Yaki, of course, being a player in this tournament in his own right with the England Knights. Once again, another team that unfortunately they had a really good composition. I really like their team. I just think they were up against some tough competition and some things, like I said, with the sound lock in episode 5 in Yaki's case, just could have gone a little bit more in their favor, but that's the way it is. And the loser of this match, of course, will play the England Knights to avoid going winless, which is an unfortunate moniker that somebody will unfortunately have to wear at this point in the tournament. But best of luck to both teams, including Yaki and including the unfortunate losers of this match who will not be going to playoffs. But hey, like I said, that's why I would love to see more years of this, to see teams who don't always make the playoffs make it there next year, do even better.
And as you can see on Ogi's screen, the spotlights are kind of a nuisance, nothing else.
Spotlights in this game are a
especially.
complete joke.
Yeah.
Yeah. Spotlights in Slide 4 are kind of just like a minor annoyance. They don't really serve as any serious obstacle with a few exceptions. Slink 1, meanwhile, we see having a little bit of trouble here actually with these rats. This section can be kind of annoying. It is possible if you're in the optimal spot to hit 2 of these electronic locks with the TNT barrel at the same time, but you have to try and line it up correctly, and you also have to try and avoid these rats who can just blow up your TNT. Dying there isn't really an issue unless you fall off the side, which is instant death in any of these sections. The Carmelita section here is also, it can be played pretty optimally. Sometimes it's really annoying trying to line up the shots with some of the TNT barrels. Slink also kind of playing this a little bit more risky. He's standing right next to some TNT barrels, not that those guys are going to be able to shoot them. Able to take those guys out, and with 4 shots, that guy will be over, and he will move on to the Alter Ego hack. Augie, meanwhile, on the left side, also getting through the race without much trouble and finishing up the Carmelita section now. And Slink, I don't think, has Trigger Bomb. If he had Trigger Bomb, he could have blown up that little block and saved a little bit of time, but not a huge detriment. As we move on to the Alter Ego hack, which are pretty much just auto-scrollers. As I am informed in chat by our wonderful moderator, the Gandhi Man, 33% of people, that is all that picked the Lumberjacks, so some people may be getting filthy rich after this mission. But we'll see. And for those of you who are wondering as well about the new Alter Ego skips, where you kind of reset the game, and you, or not reset the game, imagine, where you restart checkpoints and try to kill the bosses a little bit faster. That's not really applicable here because most of those take 2 cycles to pull off effectively. And in the case of this Alter Ego boss, the first cycle has the little boss eye immediately going up and down and moving around, which is very, very slow and loses time. So if I'm Slink at this point, I'm probably just going to keep my levels and go for the quick kill the way we used to do it. So I don't think we are going to see that in this particular hack. As Augie, meanwhile, on the left side of the screen, is heading now into Operation Gold Digger. So Augie's going to have to really pull out some tricks in the bag, and Slink is going to have to, unfortunately, miss some tricks if the Peacocks are going to pull this back. The Toothpick boss fight doesn't have a whole lot of room for disaster to occur besides the 3rd phase where you can instantly get killed by an electric floor, but other than that, there's not a lot to worry about, and even then, the leeway for getting around that floor is pretty lenient. I'm not entirely sure where you would respawn if you died to that, though, so I guess it'd be interesting to see if it happened, but it's a big if. I don't know if I've seen Slink die to that floor in my time that the 2 of us have been running the game together. We'll see what that happens. As he approaches the quick kill here. Does not reset the game. He's probably just going to shove his face into this guy and try and take it out in 1 cycle. Very nicely done.
Nice.
Yeah, so of course that's the way we used to do it. I don't even think that restarting checkpoint is faster. I don't think it's faster for all of the quick kills because once again, that one is weird because it goes a lot slower if you reset it and try to, kill the guy in another cycle.
Yeah, I've also
Augie,
heard that it's faster in some of the hacks, but not all.
yes, I do believe that is the consensus. I do believe you were correct on that. I do not think it is faster on all the hacks, that being one of them. I don't really see how that could be faster on that hack in particular. As we see Slink, I believe, pull off the new strats, though, with the out of bounds and shoots the electric floor off. So he is able to clear that first car without much issue, as Augie here, trying to dodge around these little rats. Like I said, this can be very annoying to deal with. The second car has a little bit of strats to do. He's going to intentionally take a death here. I don't think he got the checkpoint, though. He did not, so he's going to have to make up a little bit there. Unfortunate death for Slink. It's going to lose him a little bit of time as Augie tries to close this gap continuously. There he gets the checkpoint. He's going to respawn inside the car with some optimal cycles so that he can now crack shot this block. And now he can do an optimal jump past this edge that was found by Bites a handful of years ago. Nicely done. And assuming he doesn't die to any more electric floors, which, by the way, the electric floors, once again, are instant kill. So getting struck by those would be unfortunate as Augie enters the hack. He's about a section behind now, perhaps like a minute or two, like a minute and a half, 2 minutes. But Slink clears out the cars. He's going to crack shot the door and move on to the toothpick boss fight. Gotta hold up there. All right. So Yaki, don't look now. I don't want to jinx anything. I don't want to be the bearer of any sort of news, but it's looking like you and the Knights may have your opponents for the next match.
And this is actually the situation I did not want because, well, obviously I'm gonna play the Sly 3 episode in that matchup, and we are looking at the Peacocks team. And who is gonna play that Sly 3 episode against me? Oh damn, it's gonna be the infamous Avatarinator. But yeah, we shall see. We shall see that when the time comes. Nobody knows if I have time to derust some Sly 2. Maybe, perhaps, probably not.
Perhaps, yeah. We still have a lot of matches to play in this round, so you very well could have some time for derusting and preparation.
That is true.
But yeah, Avatar, I would be absolutely stunned if he didn't go to another Sly 3 episode, considering that's what he's done for every match in the tournament now at this point. He's played 3-6 twice, and he played 3-2 earlier, which, might I add, he also did a phenomenal job at, in spite of some almost disastrous events that occurred in Lemon Rage, but didn't end up really costing him a whole lot, considering Jake also made similar mistakes, which, yeah, looking back on that, that is really a huge turning point in this run, because there's no way to know what would have happened in the future, but you have to wonder, and obviously you're not going to put a loss or a victory on any one person, because it's a team effort, but you have to wonder what this race would look like right now if Avatar had hit that cutscene skip.
That is a fairly good point. But then again...
meanwhile...
Oh, he doesn't get the first cycle kill. No.
Yeah, so this is what I'm talking about. This, if you were to reset and try and kill this guy with the checkpoint reset strats, that is what would happen on the first cycle, and that loses like upwards of 10 seconds. That's very slow. So that's why that's not really viable there. Slink, meanwhile, is going to move on to the final section of the fight that I was talking about. The only way he really dies here is if he's really slow with this section. Toothpick will throw this little grenade. Yeah, he had a little grenade in his hand, he'll throw it out, and after a few seconds it will create a plasma floor that will instantly kill you. But Slink avoids that. He's moving on to the final phase of the Toothpick boss fight, and he is a few dodges away from closing this thing out and granting Nunavut their first win of the ACES competition.
And keeping the dream for playoffs alive.
Yes, that's the very important part, of course, keeping their playoff hopes alive. As Augie continues to check through the car here, he's going to finish up relatively soon as well. So meanwhile, getting into the costume, one more hit give it a little bit of time in a furnace, and the Nunavut Lumberjacks down 4 minutes in Sly 2, Episode 2 at one point, have stunned the Paris Peacocks and have come back to keep their playoff hopes alive in the ACES competition. And unfortunately for the Paris Peacocks, sitting now at 0-3, they have been eliminated from further playoff consideration. So props to everybody on both teams, to the Lumberjacks for getting their first win, and for the Peacocks for some very well played legs in any case. They absolutely did a great job in this tournament. It is a shame to see them be 0-3, but somebody had to lose. We will be having a post-game interview with the Lumberjacks very shortly with Slink, Jake, and of course Sneak, should he still be around. And we are pulling everybody in right at this time as Augie finishes up. Gentlemen, welcome, and congrats on the first victory of the season for the Nunavut Lumberjacks. You guys have pulled it off in round 3, and you are still in playoff contention. So congrats to that.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Absolutely. So now, I guess to kind of start rounding out the post-game interview, if you all are still available for that, I guess we'll take it from the top, from 3-2. So Jake, you were pitted up against Avatar. He certainly did not give you any breathing room. You guys were pretty much neck and neck for the entire episode. I gotta know, man, how did you feel after the attempt at the Lemonade cutscene skip?
Well, I didn't even try the cutscene skip.
That's what I thought, yeah.
Pretty scared of it, but yeah, it's my third time running 3-2 in ACES, so I guess I'm comfortable, but not comfortable enough on that skip. So whoever I race next, pick Slide 3 Episode 2 again. Meet me in Australia. I'll see you down there, okay?
Meet me in Australia. Even if it's the Outback, he is not afraid. This man is absolutely not afraid. Yeah, that was the craziest swing of the race, Jake, I think. Well, craziest swing of the race until Slink really got one of the big hack skips was you didn't attempt the skip, which I thought, and when you also... So what happened as well with Murray? Did Murray just, clip through the floor?
Yeah, it's like a very risky cheese thing that I think at some point in time, Hexu had posted a setup about how to consistently get it to work. It was a little stupid to try to do it without having practicing it, and yeah, it's a pretty big time loss. Can't have the perfect lemon rage, but yeah, it's kind of just an unfortunate situation if you try to cheese that part.
Tough job for sure, but you also did a great job with that. You guys had a very close race, so GG's to that. Sneak, moving on to you. You were stuck with 2-2 for this race. Starting out, you had a very rough go with Recon the Ballroom, some terrible guard RNG, but after that, it felt like you played a really good race.
Yeah, no, it wasn't too bad. I mean, I've run that episode countless times, and getting 6 or 7 guards there is probably one of the worst outcomes you can get. Really puts you in a horrible spot for the rest of the run. Other than that, it felt pretty good. Had one pretty bad cutscene miss on the pipe going into boardroom. Was a little too far lined up on the left. Should have been a little bit more to the right. But other than that, definitely can't complain for how much I've really been playing recently.
No, I definitely can't complain either. And I think we were talking a little bit about the differences between you and Takei running that episode about how you were opting to not go for the proxies, but even without pulling out some crazy stops, still a very consistent display, and I think it really helped the team in the long run. So, great job with that, man.
Yeah, man. Appreciate that. Thank you so much.
Absolutely. And speaking of consistency, that is going to round us out with Mr. Slink, who, dude, I've known you for a handful of years at this point. How did you feel after you got 4-2, and how did you feel coming into it when you knew what the situation was?
Going into it, I was, of course, worried that they were just going to ban all of Sly 4 entirely, like happened to us in the last round. But just happy to get any Sly 4 episode. We were all hoping for 4-3, but that ended up getting banned, so... I've not been playing as much and practicing for ACES, so it was nice to be able to get a little familiarity there, but did not go well the first time I ran it, so glad I went better this time.
Yeah, so Slink, if you want me to be perfectly honest for a minute, I'm not just saying this. I honestly thought what the Peacocks might have done was knowing that Sly 4 was your most comfortable game. I literally thought they would have just like banned all of Sly 4 except episode 3 and then said, hey, you guys can pick it, but we have people who have ran this episode and you're still at the mercy of luck. So definitely for you, I imagine it was great to see that episode still on the board, to have that. And yeah, just with like the consistency with the new strats, especially, you pulled out a lot of the stops for that. The big turning point, though, really in the race was when you were in Cooper for Hire and you hit the barrier skip in the last part of the hack. How'd you feel about that?
I was just lucky that I went last. I was able to practice some of the newer stuff. So I was able to at least get an idea of what I was doing going into it. So I was feeling pretty confident with most of it. Anything I wasn't feeling confident with, I didn't really go for.
Yeah, well, I mean, take the time that you have, folks. Listen here, like, just not sitting around, actually taking the time, listening to the call, getting some new strats. But that's what I had to say. Yaki, did you have additional questions for the runners?
I need to remember to unmute my mic. Nothing too much. I have one question. How did you guys feel when going into Sly 4 and knowing that there's probably not that much big stuff that you can gain an advantage, and when you knew that Ogi was a couple of minutes ahead of you, how did it feel? How were you conversating in the team room?
Yeah, I mean, I think for me, I was telling Sneak just to keep it close. I felt like there was a good opportunity if it was within a couple of minutes to maybe pull out a squeaky win, but my run ended up going really well. It was actually a PB for me by like 13 seconds or so. So it went better than expected.
Yeah, nothing else from me.
All right then. Well, I love this room though. I love everybody here. This is a great race we had here. Shout outs to the winners here, and shout outs to the Paris Peacocks, Avatar, Augie, and Takei, not only for a great handful of races, but also just for a phenomenal, hard-fought season. Once again, we were kind of talking about it at the beginning of the match here. It was hard to believe going into this match that these two teams, these two groups of talented runners were all 0-2, but I think the situation just, like, sometimes it doesn't always work out like that. I know Augie, he got pinned against some really tough competition in, like, Bacon Man in episode 1 of Sly 3, and Remo, which, listen, you put that man anywhere, it's going to be a tough time. Slink, even you had to play Beaver in a previous matchup. Jake, you've had some really tough matches. Sneak certainly hasn't been easy. But yeah, no, everybody, phenomenal race. It's been a great time commentating, and GG's to everybody. GG's to the Peacocks, and congratulations to the Nunavut Lumberjacks. We will have to see how the Swiss format works out, but you guys aren't in the playoffs yet. You're going to have to get another win, and they're going to need some help, but their playoff hopes are still very much alive, so we will see what the stakes are next time on the ACES competition. So, for the meantime, though, yeah. 11 a.m., 1 hour before this on Saturday, we will have the Gungathal Sabres and the Jackalopes of Cottonmouth Bluff, I believe. Jackalopes, if I have that right. But yes, we will have another match on Saturday. That one will be commentated by Ison and Remo Christian. Very respectable players there. Very good commentary is sure to come from that race. But until then, everybody in Sly Golds, thank you very much for watching, and we hope you all have a phenomenal rest of your day. Until then, stay sneaky, y'all.